Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. It's so good to have you here. Today I am so excited to finally bring you book 7 in the Harborview Historical Romance series, and it's called Waves of Devotion. I know some of you have been waiting so long for this and I appreciate your patience. It's just taken me a long time to get to this book, but we are here and we're ready to go. So I wrote this series after a trip that I took to Boston with a dear author friend of mine, Stephanie Fowers. And there were so many incredible, wonderful things that happened on that trip. And, but it was an incredible experience. If you haven't been to Boston, I highly recommend it. And anyway, we actually went in January, which is not peak tourist season for Boston, but it was an incredible experience. So, highly, highly recommend it if you can go, if you live there. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know down below. If you've been, let me know. If you're planning a trip, let me know. Just let me know if you're going to Boston, guys. So, okay, well, without anything else in your way, I will let you get into this story. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about it. I read all of your comments. Please be sure to like and subscribe and help other people find this channel. I appreciate you so much. You guys make it really easy to be here and just fill my heart with gratitude and thanksgiving every single day. And thank you, and I'll see you on the other side of the book.
Welcome to Waves of Devotion, Harborview Historical Romances, Book 7. Written by Lucille McConnell. Narrated by AI voice Emma. Chapter 1. Dawn's rosy fingers paint the sky in hues of coral and amber as I descend the worn wooden stairs from my cozy apartment above the Whitman family apothecary. The floorboards creak beneath my leather boots, a familiar morning serenade. I draw in a deep breath, inhaling the aroma of dried herbs and medicinal tinctures that permeate every nook and cranny of our cherished apothecary shop on Harborview's bustling Main Street. As I enter the shop proper, golden sunlight streams through the leaded glass windows, illuminating the orderly rows of glass jars lining the shelves, each one filled with nature's healing bounty. Bundles of fragrant lavender, chamomile, and rosemary hang from the rafters, their delicate scents mingling in the air. I trail my fingertips reverently over the cool glass, reciting the Latin names like a litany: Tenacetium parthenium, Valerian officinalis, Melissa officinalis. The familiar words soothe my spirit, quieting the frisson of excitement thrumming through my veins at the prospect of another day immersed in the art and science of healing. I know I'm strange. Women shouldn't love things like studying Latin and the science of healing. I'm different, and I know that means that I'm not going to marry and have children. I don't think it's my fault that I am the way I am. If God doesn't make accidents, and I don't believe he does, then I'm exactly as I should be. What makes me wonder is why the world is the way that it is. Why must a woman choose between a life spent enriching her mind and being a wife? Can't I be both? One look at my bare ring finger and another at the years ticking by on the calendar, and the answer is clear. The muted clink of glass on wood rouses me from my reverie. I glance up to see Father emerging from the back room, a tray of freshly decanted tincture bottles balanced in his capable hands. Elias Whitman is a sight to behold, tall and distinguished, with a full head of silver hair, and eyes the color of a stormy sea. Laugh lines crinkle at the corners of his eyes when he smiles at me, pride and affection evident in his gaze. We come from good stock, men and women who landed on these shores and fought to make them free. Up with the sun again, I see. He greets me warmly, setting the tray down on the well-worn counter. Your dedication never ceases to amaze me. I think your grandfather is shaking his finger at me from heaven and asking why I couldn't have been more like you. I duck my head, a pleased flush warming my cheeks at his praise. I'm sure he's proud of you, Father. I lift up on my toes to get a better look at the tray and what's on it. What new experiment has captured your attention so thoroughly this morning? His eyes sparkle as he selects a cobalt blue bottle from the tray, holding it up to the light. The liquid within shimmers like liquid gold. Feverfew, my dear. I've been refining a new tincture formula, higher concentration, faster acting. I believe it may provide swifter relief for those plagued by migraines and arthritis. I accept the proffer bottle, removing the glass stopper to waft the contents beneath my nose. The sharp, almost camphorous scent of parthenolide mingles with the sweet herbaceous notes of the extracted plant matter. Take a look at the notes. He pushes a sheaf of paper my way. I know you won't rest until you do. My mind whirs with the implications as I examine my father's meticulous notes. The tight script is as familiar to me as my own. You've increased the alcohol percentage in the menstruum, I observe, tapping a particular notation with my index finger. That should indeed result in a higher yield of the medicinal compounds. What a blessing for those who have continual headaches and pains. Father beams at me, clearly pleased by my insights. Well spotted, my girl. He takes the bottle from my hand, replacing it amongst its brethren with a fond pat. Now what say we? The tinkling of the bell above the shop door interrupts his train of thought. We both turn to greet our first customer of the day, a hunched, elderly woman leaning heavily on a gnarled walking stick. Her weathered face is lined with pain, her gait unsteady as she shuffles towards the counter. Mrs. Abernathy, I call out in greeting, moving from behind the counter to offer her my arm. How lovely to see you this fine morning. Are you in need of more of the comfrey and mint salve for your joints? She accepts my support with a grateful sigh, her knobby fingers curling around my forearm. Bless you, Sarah. That salve of yours works miracles, I swear it. Haven't had a moment's peace with this infernal rheumatism acting up something fierce. I guide her gently to a chair near the hearth, assisting her to sit before moving to collect the necessary ingredients. As I work, meticulously measuring out the appropriate proportions of dried comfrey leaf, beeswax, mint oil, and sweet almond oil, Mrs. Abernathy fixes me with a speculative eye. I don't suppose there's a strapping young man in your life yet, Sarah? A beautiful, accomplished girl like you. Why, my Edgar would jump at the chance to court you. I chuckle good-naturedly as I strain the emerald-hued oil through a fine muslin cloth, the warm, nutty scent of the almond soothing my own twinge of exasperation. Edgar was a year older than me in school, couldn't hold a job, and drank himself under the table every Saturday night. I guess his one redeeming quality was that he managed to clean himself up for church on Sunday morning. Your Edgar is a fine man, Mrs. Abernathy, but I'm afraid my attentions are rather consumed by my work here in the shop. My first love is, and always has been, the pursuit of knowledge and the healing arts. She clicks her tongue at me, waggling an arthritic finger in playful admonishment. All work and no husband makes Sarah a dull girl. Youth is wasted on the young. I finish decanting the warm salve into a small, wide-mouthed jar. Screwing the lid on tightly, I affix our shop's label, an intricate line drawing of a mortar and pestle surrounded by a wreath of herbs. Presenting it to her with a flourish, I quip. Perhaps, in addition to easing your aching joints, I can interest you in something that will help Edgar's receding hairline. Mrs. Abernathy throws back her head with a raspy cackle, accepting the proffered jar and pressing a few tarnished coins into my palm in return. Oh, go on with you. Father materializes at my elbow as I assist her to the door, slipping a packet of his specialty chamomile and lavender tea blend into her basket with a conspiratorial wink. For a restful night's sleep, madam, may it soothe your aches and bring you sweet dreams. Saints preserve us. What would Harborview do without the Whitman family apothecary? Mrs. Abernathy muses, her eyes going misty with gratitude. Go with God, my dears. I'll be singing your praises from here to Sunday. With that, she totters off down the cobblestone street, her uneven gait marginally smoothed by Father's kindness. Father and I exchange a look of shared satisfaction. This is why I love working here. Bringing hope to the hopeless, help to the helpless, and healing to the wounded in body and heart, the day moves along, and I find myself increasingly absorbed in my research, poring over tomes and botanical illustrations. I barely notice I'm squinting when the sun sets, and Father brings in an oil lamp. Sarah, love. You'll strain your eyes, hunched over like that in this dim light, he chides me softly. Come, it's long pot time for supper. Chagrined, I unfold myself from my awkward position, my spine popping in protest. Is it so late already? I stretch luxuriously, feeling the pleasant burn of too long inactive muscles. Father chuckles, shepherding me towards the narrow staircase leading up to our living quarters. All the brilliance in the world won't keep you hale and hearty if you neglect the basics, my dear. A lesson I learned long ago at the cost of a few gray hairs. He ruffles my crimson curls fondly as we ascend, the savory aroma of his hearty vegetable stew beckoning us onward. My stomach rumbles in anticipation, reminding me that I haven't had anything save a hasty bite of bread and cheese since breaking my fast at dawn. We eat in companionable silence, the crackle of the hearth fire and the distant cry of gulls wheeling over the harbor our only accompaniment. Lulled by the warmth and the siren song of a full belly, my eyelids begin to droop. Father notices, of course, shooing me off to my bed with a knowing look. To sleep, my girl. Even Asclepius himself needed his 40 winks, I'd wager. I agree with a rueful grin, pecking him on the weathered cheek before retiring to my room. The narrow bed beckons invitingly. As I burrow into the covers, my eyes alight on the dog-eared anatomy textbook lying open on my bedside table. The urge to reach for it, to continue my studies even as sleep threatens to overtake me, is nigh overwhelming. With a soft laugh at my own incorrigible nature, I resist the temptation, instead turning my face to the open window. The briny scent of the sea wafts in on the evening breeze, mingling with the heady fragrance of night-blooming jasmine from our tiny garden below. I breathe deeply of the intoxicating perfume, letting it fill my lungs and quiet my worrying thoughts. As I slip inexorably into slumber, my mind wanders down fanciful paths. In my mind's eye, I see myself striding through the hallowed halls of a prestigious university, an academic robe swishing about my ankles. A heavy tome is tucked under one arm, the title embossed in gilt upon the leather cover, Dr. Sarah Whitman, on the advancement of women in the medical arts. Solemn men in dark suits doff their hats to me as I pass, murmuring respectful greetings. Good day, Dr. Whitman. An honor, Dr. Whitman. I say, Dr. Whitman, have you seen my latest paper on the use of digitalis in treating dropsy? I ascend a podium to the sound of enthusiastic applause, and a sea of eager faces turns up to me in the lecture hall, hanging on my every word. As I begin to speak, expounding on the intricacies of human physiology and the cutting-edge treatments of the day, a sense of bone, deep rightness suffuses my being. This is what I am meant for, to heal, to teach, to blaze a trail for the women who will come after me. With that comforting thought, I drift off to sleep. Chapter 2. Anticipation thrums through my veins as I approach the grand edifice of the Harborview Medical Hall, its stone facade bathed in the golden light of early morning. The annual Summer Medical Conference has drawn physicians and apothecaries from every corner of New England, their collective knowledge and expertise converging upon this hallowed space. My hands tremble slightly as I clutch my meticulously compiled research notes to my chest, the pages rustling with each breath I take. This is my moment, my chance to share the fruits of my tireless labors with the brightest minds in the field. I ascend the sweeping staircase, my heeled dress boots clicking against the polished marble. The heady scent of freshly brewed herbal tea and the murmur of scholarly conversation greet me as I step into the lobby. My heart skips a beat as I take in the distinguished attendees milling about, their finely tailored suits and elegant dresses a testament to the gravity of the occasion. I feel suddenly self-conscious in my simple linen dress, the fiery hue of my unruly curls no doubt drawing curious glances. Squaring my shoulders, I navigate through the crowd towards the refreshments table, eager for a cup of tea to settle my nerves. The delicate china cups clink softly as I pour, wisps of steam curling invitingly. I inhale deeply, allowing the soothing aroma of chamomile and lavender to work its magic. Lost in my own thoughts, I fail to notice the tall figure approaching until it's too late. In my distraction, I collide with a solid wall of masculine chest, the contents of my teacup sloshing over the rim and onto the stranger's fine waistcoat. The rich, earthy scent of the tea mingles with the clean, woodsy notes of his cologne, filling my nostrils as I stumble back in mortification. "I'm so dreadfully sorry," he exclaimed, my face burning with embarrassment. I hastily set down my cup and fumble for my handkerchief, dabbing ineffectually at the spreading stain spreading across the expensive fabric, mocking my clumsy attempts at rectification. To my surprise, a warm chuckle emanates from above, vibrating through me like the gentle hum of a hummingbird's wings. I glance up, my eyes widening as I take in the handsome man I've so carelessly assaulted. His dark hair falls in tousled waves across his brow, framing a pair of piercing blue eyes that sparkle with amusement. The corners of his mouth quirked up in a disarming smile, revealing a flash of even white teeth. "Please don't trouble yourself," he reassures me, his voice a rich baritone that sends a shiver down my spine. It's not every day I have the pleasure of being accosted by such a charming young lady. I feel my blush deepen at his teasing words, my tongue tying itself in knots as I struggle to formulate a coherent response. I truly am sorry. I should have been paying more attention. Please, allow me to pay for the cleaning of your waistcoat. It's the least I can do. He waves away my offer with a graceful flick of his wrist. Nonsense. It's merely a bit of tea. I dare say I've survived far worse in my line of work. His eyes twinkle with mischief as he extends a hand in greeting. James Parker, at your service. I'm a shipping merchant's son, recently arrived from Boston. Arrived from where? I silently ask in astonishment. He's treating me like an equal, shaking hands with me like a man. The fact that we are not equals is apparent in everything from his expensive shoes to my ink-stained fingers. I accept his proffered hand, marveling at the way my own is engulfed in his larger one. His skin is warm and slightly calloused, speaking to a life of hard work despite his genteel appearance. Sarah Whitman, I managed to reply, my voice sounding breathier than I'd like. Daughter of Elias Whitman, the local apothecary. James's eyebrows lift in recognition. Oh, Whitman's apothecary. I've heard of your father's remarkable skill with medicinal herbs. It seems the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, if your presence here is any indication. I duck my head, a pleased smile tugging at my lips. You're too kind, Mr. Parker. I'm merely an apprentice hoping to learn from the greatest minds in the field, and what better place to do so than at this esteemed conference? James gestures expansively at the milling crowd. I confess, I'm rather out of my depth, but I find myself fascinated by the advancements being made in the world of medicine. His admission catches me off guard, and I find myself warming to his unaffected candor. Indeed, it's a thrilling time to be in the field. Why, just last month, I read a fascinating treatise on the potential uses of willow bark in alleviating pain and reducing fevers. The implications are staggering. James leans in conspiratorially, his voice dropping to a low murmur. Between you and me, Miss Whitman, I've always harbored a secret passion for the natural sciences. There's something deeply satisfying about unraveling the mysteries of the world around us. Wouldn't you agree? I nod emphatically, my earlier nervousness melting away in the face of his genuine interest. Absolutely. It's what drives me to spend countless hours poring over texts and conducting experiments. The thrill of discovery, the chance to make a real difference in people's lives, it's intoxicating. We fall into an easy conversation, discussing the various lectures and demonstrations we're eager to attend. I'm pleasantly surprised to learn that James possesses a keen intellect and insatiable curiosity, his questions both thoughtful and incisive. He listens attentively as I expound upon my latest research into the medicinal properties of local flora, his eyes alight with fascination. As we talk, I find myself drawn to the warmth of his smile, the way his gaze lingers on mine just a beat longer than strictly necessary. I catch myself leaning closer, my pulse quickening as the spicy notes of his cologne envelop me. The ringing of a bell startles us out of our reverie, signaling the start of the opening lecture. James offers me his arm with a gallant flourish. Shall we, Miss Whitman? I'd be honored to escort you to the auditorium. I hesitate for a moment, acutely aware of the impropriety of such a gesture. A respectable young woman doesn't just go gallivanting around with a strange man, no matter how charming he may be. My father's stern admonitions about the dangers of letting one's guard down echo in my mind, warring with the undeniable pull I feel towards this stranger. In the end, curiosity and a thirst for adventure win out over propriety. I slip my hand into the crook of James's elbow, feeling the solid strength of his arm beneath the fine wool of his coat. Lead the way, Mr. Parker. I have a feeling this conference will be full of surprises. We make our way inside, and I feel the disapproving stares land on me like fat drops of rain. I'm used to the professors ignoring me as I've snuck in the back of several of their classes over the years, but the medical professionals think that women should attend the nurses' conference, not the doctors' conference. I'm one of 3 women in attendance today, and I'm the only one not here with her husband. It's a little difficult to travel with a husband when you don't have one, which is why it's a comfort to me to walk in with James. As much as I dislike it, being with him takes some of the general disapproval off me. I feel bad for him, though, as he will have to deal with the consequences of being with me. We take our seats just as the speaker takes the stage, a distinguished gentleman with a shock of white hair and a neatly trimmed beard. As he begins to speak, his voice ringing out with authority, I find my attention divided between his words and the magnetic presence of the man beside me. Throughout the lecture, we exchange glances and quiet murmurs, our hands occasionally brushing as we reach for our notebooks. Each fleeting touch sends a jolt of electricity through me, igniting a flame I didn't even know existed. I find myself hanging on James' every word, captivated by his insights. As the speaker concludes his remarks with a round of polite applause, James turns to me with a mischievous grin. Well, Miss Whitman, I dare say that was enlightening. Though I confess, I found myself rather distracted by the company. I duck my head, feeling a blush creep up my neck. I could say the same, Mr. Parker. It's not every day one meets a kindred spirit at a medical conference. He chuckles, the sound warm and rich like honey. Indeed. I consider myself exceptionally fortunate to have made your acquaintance, even if it did come at the cost of my favorite waistcoat. He gestures to the dried tea. We linger in the auditorium as the crowd begins to disperse, reluctant to part ways just yet. I don't suppose you'd care to join me for a stroll through the university gardens. I hear they've added a new medicinal herbs section that's quite impressive. My heart leaps at the invitation. I know I should demur. The gossip mills of Harborview would have a field day if word got out that the respectable Miss Whitman was being courted by a handsome stranger. I've had more women try to marry me off than I can count. I always turn them down, citing my love of medicine as my only love. And yet, there's a part of me that yearns to throw caution to the wind, to seize this chance to see what it is like to flirt and be different. Different than me. It's not that I don't like who I am or the life I lead, I love it. But my friends are all married now, and I wonder if I haven't missed out on something. I meet James's gaze. In that moment, an unspoken understanding passes between us, a recognition of the undeniable pull that draws us together. I nod, a slow smile spreading across my face. I'd be delighted, Mr. Parker. Lead the way. As we exit the auditorium, James offers me his arm once more. This time, I accept without hesitation, relishing the solid warmth of his presence at my side. When we reach the gardens, we slow down. James proves to be an engaging companion, his knowledge of botany and horticulture rivaling my own. We wander the winding paths, stopping to admire the vibrant blooms and exotic specimens. He plucks a delicate violet from a nearby bed, tucking it behind my ear with a tender smile. There, he murmurs, his fingers lingering against my skin, a perfect compliment to your lovely eyes. I feel my heart stutter in my chest. Is this what it is like to be admired by a man? I thought myself above such fancies and flattery. I'm too practical for such things, or so I told myself over the years. If that is true, then why, at this moment, surrounded by beauty and in the company of this remarkable man, do I feel more alive than I ever have before? It's only when the lengthening shadows and the distant chime of the clock tower remind us of the lateness of the hour that we reluctantly make our way back to the medical hall. At the foot of the grand staircase, James takes my hand in his thumb tracing gentle circles against my skin. Miss Whitman, I cannot begin to express how much I've enjoyed our time together today. You've made this conference infinitely more memorable. I smile up at him, my heart full to bursting. The pleasure was all mine, Mr. Parker. He leans in closer, his voice dropping to a low murmur. Perhaps we could continue this conversation another time. I would very much like to see you again if you're amenable. I hesitate for the briefest of moments. My days are structured and predictable, exciting because of knowledge gained. In the end, there's really no choice at all. I would like that very much. We part ways, and I feel as though I'm walking on air, made by the giddy joy of having found someone who accepts me so completely. Throughout the day, he listened to my opinions, didn't placate me, debated if he disagreed, and treated my words as if they were valuable. During my walk home, my thoughts are consumed by James Parker. I replay every moment of our time together, committing each precious detail to memory. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled is incredibly endearing. I do not know if anything more will come from today, but I hope it will. I am nothing if not a woman of patience, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow's conference will bring. Chapter 3. The following days of the medical conference fly by in a whirlwind of lectures and social gatherings that I'm miraculously included in this year. I know it's because I've been associated with Mr. Parker and his family has influence and money. But I don't care all that much because I'm suddenly in a world of intellectual stimulation and budding camaraderie that was previously close to me. I find myself drawn to James Parker's company like a moth to a flame dot. After each talk, we linger in the auditorium, our voices low and conspiratorial as we dissect the finer points of the latest theories. James, as I've been given permission to call him, gestures animatedly, his hands painting invisible diagrams in the air. I match his fervor with words tumbling from my lips in an eager rush. The implications of Dr. Blackwell's research on hygiene and sanitation are staggering, I gush, my cheeks flushed with excitement. Imagine the lives that could be saved if his recommendations were implemented in hospitals and clinics across the country. James nods, his brow furrowed in thought. Indeed, the potential impact is immense, though I fear the resistance from those who cling to outdated notions of miasma and humoral imbalance may prove a formidable obstacle. I sigh, knowing all too well the stubbornness of those who refuse to embrace change. Progress is rarely easy, but we must persevere. The evidence is mounting and the truth will win out in the end. As we delve deeper into the complexities of medical advancement, I find myself marveling at the breadth and depth of James's knowledge. He speaks with the ease of a man well-versed in the latest scientific discoveries, his questions probing and insightful. Your grasp of anatomy is impressive, I remark, a note of admiration creeping into my voice. I wouldn't have guessed a merchant's son to be so well-read in the medical arts. James ducks his head, a bashful smile playing at the corners of his mouth. I've always been fascinated by the workings of the human body. In another life, perhaps I might have pursued a career in medicine myself. I tilt my head, curiosity piqued. And what keeps you from doing so now? He sighs, a shadow passing over his handsome features. Familial obligations, I'm afraid. My father expects me to take over the family business and carry on the Parker legacy in trade and commerce. I nod, understanding all too well the weight of expectation. I can sympathize. I'm expected to produce offspring in the perfect apple pie, and yet I'd rather be mixing herbs and reading about the intestines. I laugh to try to lighten the mood. James's gaze meets mine, a flicker of recognition sparking between us. Expectations to the devil, he exclaims. Seems we're both here, against the odd, and we've made a fine week of it. Indeed, I agree with a grin. What does your everyday look like, Miss Whitman? He leans forward. I tell him of the long hours spent hunched over simmering cauldrons, of the painstaking process of distilling tinctures and grinding powders. He listens with rapt attention, his eyes alight with fascination as I describe the medicinal properties of various herbs and roots. Your knowledge of botanicals is astounding, he marvels. I can only imagine the dedication and skill required to master such a complex art. I feel a flush of pleasure at his praise, a warmth blooming in my chest. It's a labor of love, truly, and there's something profoundly satisfying about harnessing the power of nature to heal and soothe. You should be a doctor, he says, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Should be and able to become are two different things, I'm afraid. I do not wish to debate the laws that govern who can and cannot study medicine, vote, or do many other things. James nods, rubbing his thumb over the timepiece that hangs from a thin gold chain. I envy you that sense of purpose, of knowing exactly where your passions lie. I sometimes feel as though I'm drifting, searching for something I can't quite name. I lay a hand on his arm, the contact sending a shiver through me despite the layers of fabric between us. You'll find your path, James. I have no doubt of that. A mind as brilliant as yours was meant for great things. He covers my hand with his own, his palm warm and slightly calloused. Thank you, Sarah. Your faith in me means more than you know. I'm not sure how to respond to that. I've never been important before, not the way James seems to think I am. The thought is unsettling. What does a woman do in this situation? Should I play coy? Excuse myself so that he will miss me? Heavens, I may be able to list the vertebrae in the spine in order, but I have no knowledge in this area. As the day wears on, I find myself growing increasingly flustered in James's presence. His easy charm and quick wit leave me tongue-tied and blushing. My usual confidence deserts me in the face of his devastating smile. I catch him watching me when he thinks I'm not looking, his gaze lingering on the curve of my cheek, the arch of my brow. I am not a beautiful woman, at least not in my own understanding of such things, and his attention is disconcerting. I wonder if he's as entranced by the light dusting of freckles across my nose as I am by the rich timbre of his laugh. It's improper, I know, to entertain such thoughts about a man. We dance around the edges of propriety, our interactions towing the line between friendly camaraderie and something deeper, more dangerous. Stolen glances and lingering touches, heated debates that leave us both breathless and flushed. I tell myself it's just the heady rush of intellectual connection, the thrill of finding a kindred spirit in a sea of conformity. James understands me in a way few others do, and sees beyond the dutiful daughter and dedicated apprentice to the fiercely independent and intelligent woman beneath. With him, I feel seen, understood, and appreciated for all that I am and all that I aspire to be. And yet, there's a part of me that knows this is more than just a meeting of minds. The ache in my chest when I think of saying goodbye at the end of the conference, of letting this precious, fragile thing between us slip away, is an indication that I have stepped beyond my safety zone. I find myself clinging to every moment with James, drinking in his presence like a desert wanderer stumbling upon an oasis. We linger in the halls long after the last lecture, neither one of us quite ready to let this time go. What's on the other side? I don't know. James lives in Boston. While his family is opening a shipping office here, he is needed back home. I'll be returning to Boston at the end of the week, James murmurs, his fingers tracing idle patterns on the back of my hand. But I can't bear the thought of losing you. Truly, he's saying all the things I long to hear, and yet a part of me doesn't want to believe him. I know there are men out there who are fast and take advantage of single women like myself. I've heard the warnings. I could be falling for one of them right now, allowing him the liberty of holding my hand because my heart is fluttering. Somehow, I don't believe that about James, though. I swallow past the lump in my throat. As much as I love my life, my time with my father, and learning, a part of me longs for what James has given me this week: the open discussions, the debates, and the research partner who delights in discovery right along with me. Nor I, you. We've only just found each other, and I feel as though I've known you all my life. I'm blathering like a child, and I don't even care. James's eyes search mine, a fierce intensity burning in their depths. Sarah, I know this is sudden, and I have no right to ask, but may I write to you? May I continue to share my thoughts, my dreams, my very soul with you, even from afar? I nod, blinking back the sudden sting of tears. Yes, James. 1,000 times, yes. I would be honored to be your confidant, your friend, your whatever this is between us. He raises my hand to his lips, pressing a fervent kiss to my knuckles. My heart, he whispers, his voice raw with emotion. You are my heart, Sarah Whitman. His heart? Yes, that is what he is to me. That's what I've been missing my whole life. I have a head full of facts, figures, equations, recipes, and more, and yet my heart has sat empty, waiting for him to appear. I lean into him, resting my forehead against his. And you, mine. We may be outsiders, James, but we've found a home in each other, and that is a precious thing indeed. We stay like that for a long moment, breathing each other in, savoring the bittersweet ache of separation. When at last we part, it is with great effort to hold back tears. I'm not a woman who cries easily, and yet I have to fight to maintain my composure on the walk home. I'm not sure I can face the mundane after the excitement of this week. Not only has my heart been awakened, but I learned so much that I think I might burst with it all. Chapter 4. Walking through the door to our apothecary, my mind is a muddled haze, the events of the past week swirling together in a dizzying kaleidoscope of newfound knowledge and unexpected connection. I feel as though I've been in a dreamland and have been jarred awake. Even as I breathe in the soothing aroma of lavender and chamomile that should ground me, I find my thoughts drifting unbidden to James Dot. How long until I hear from him? What will his family think of his time here? Of me? I shake my head, trying to dispel the lingering echoes of his warm chuckle and the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he gently teased me about my passionate defense of the medicinal properties of willow bark. I am not a daydreamer. I am practical, and my place is here, in the shop, carrying on the legacy of healing and service that my family has built over the years. With the determined set to my shoulders, I hang up my cloak and set about my usual tasks. The familiar routine of grinding herbs and measuring out precise quantities of tinctures, a balm to my scattered mind. The rhythmic scrape of the mortar and pestle, the soft clink of glass vials, the crackle of the fire in the hearth, these are the sounds that have shaped my life, the soundtrack to countless hours spent honing my craft under my father's watchful eye. And yet, this is not all of me. I have become more, and I wonder if I still fit in this space. If I try to fit back in here, will I lose my heart? Could it grow cold and lost? Father hasn't asked much about the conference. The invitation that allowed me to attend had his name on it, and I went in his place. He's been to the conferences before, and he enjoys them, but as he ages, he prefers his home at the lofty halls of university. We'll talk about my notes after dinner tonight. I work until I lose myself in the work, the outside world fading away as I focus on the delicate balance of flavors and essences, the subtle interplay of medicinal properties that can mean the difference between life and death for those who seek our aid. It's a sacred trust, this knowledge passed down through generations, and I feel the weight of it settling over me like a mantle, grounding me in the here and now. My father pokes his head in from time to time, his weathered face creasing in a proud smile as he takes in my diligence. You've a healer's touch, my girl, he murmurs, laying a gentle hand on my shoulder. Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. My mother, gone these past 10 years, is a faded memory, a soft blur of red curls and green eyes so like my own. She was the one who first instilled in me a love of the natural world, who taught me to see the inherent magic in a delicate petal or a twisted root. She was a gardener, and my father was an apothecary. The perfect match, and I was the result. I too tend the garden she loves so much, and have also planted an herb garden in the new park across the street from our shop. The herbs are for communal use, and I find great satisfaction in seeing them cut back and knowing my neighbors enjoy them. Even as I take solace in the familiar rhythms of the shop and the quiet companionship of my father, I find my mind straying to forbidden paths. The conference, with its dizzying array of new ideas and cutting-edge research, has awoken a hunger in me that I've long suppressed. A hunger for knowledge, for discovery, for something more than the narrow confines of the life I've always known. The forbidden desire to be a doctor. I think of the prestigious university on the other side of town, its ivy-covered halls and well-stocked laboratories a siren song to my curious mind. How many times have I lingered outside its gates, watching the students hurry by with their arms full of books and their heads full of dreams? How often have I imagined myself among them, debating the finer points of anatomy and physiology, conducting experiments late into the night. It's a foolish fancy, I know. A woman's place is in the home, tending to the needs of her family and community. To aspire to anything more is to court scandal and ruin, to risk the disapproval of those who hold fast to the old ways. And yet, I cannot help the small secret part of me that yearns for something beyond the familiar confines of the shop, beyond the path that has been laid out for me since birth. What would my mother think of such a thing? Her daughter wanting to carve open a cadaver and take a look inside. I'm not gruesome as the statement makes me sound. I want to see the things I only read about, understand them, and then find ways to keep them healthy and cure their pains. I cannot do that from pictures. I must have practical experience. But no professor is going to let a woman in his lab. My thoughts drift to James. If James were a professor, he would let me in. I don't understand how he is so capable of seeing past the fact that I wear skirts when so many men cannot. I sigh deeply. There are so many things wrong with the world, and I cannot fix them. It is as unfair as it is honest. If only there were a way to break the rules. I stop and stare at the recipe in front of me in shock. I am not, nor have I ever been, a person who wants to break the rules. I excel at understanding the laws of nature and using them to benefit others. What has happened to me? I glance up at the looking glass and find my cheeks flushed. Dear girl, I say to my reflection, I think you may have fallen in love. See Pater 5. In James's letters, which arrive with increasing frequency over the next few weeks, I catch glimpses of a restless soul, a mind that chafes against the narrow confines of a life in trade and commerce. He writes of his father's plans for him to take over the family business, to spend his days overseeing shipping routes and endless ledgers of figures and dots. He returns again and again to our impassioned discussions at the conference, to the intricacies of plant enzymes and chemical reaction potentials. I can almost hear the wistful note in his voice as he describes his longing to discover a new combination of chemicals that we don't know about yet. Through his letters, I learned that James feels the same tug-of-war that I do, the same conflict between duty and desire. Like we are one person at home, but inside someone vastly different. To the world, I'm a dutiful daughter who gave up a family of my own to help my father. But that is not all that I am. I am so much more. James's family has pinned their hopes and dreams on his ability to take their shipping business to all the American ports. To turn his back on that, to pursue his own path, would be an unforgivable betrayal. And yet, I cannot help but wonder what might be possible if we were both brave enough to chase our dreams. As the lazy summer days bleed together, I find myself caught between two worlds, two versions of myself. By day, I am Sarah Whitman, dutiful daughter and dedicated apprentice, tirelessly serving the needs of Harborview's ailing population. I mix poultices and brew tinctures, dispense sage advice and gentle comfort in equal measure. But by night, in the secret corners of my mind, I am someone else entirely. I am Sarah, the scholar, the doctor, the explorer. I imagine myself poring over ancient texts in dimly lit libraries, conducting groundbreaking experiments in laboratories full of bubbling concoctions. I picture myself standing before a rapt audience, sharing my discoveries with the world, blazing a trail not just for myself, but for other women who long to stretch their wings. And always, always in my dreams, James is there beside me, his hand in mine, his brilliant mind a perfect complement to my own. Together, we are unstoppable. We challenge each other, inspire each other, push each other to new heights of brilliance and discovery. It's a beautiful dream, a seductive fantasy. But that's all it can ever be. For the world we live in is not kind to those who dare to dream beyond their station, who reach for the stars that were never meant to be theirs. The weight of expectation, of tradition, of duty is a heavy one, and it threatens to crush the fragile hopes that bloom in my heart. And so I go on, torn between the life I have and the life I yearn for. I pour myself into my work at the shop, finding solace in the familiar rituals of healing and service. I write to James, and our letters are a lifeline in a world that feels increasingly constricting. As wonderful as his thoughts on medicine are, it's the paragraphs where he opens his heart that I recite in my dreams. He has proclaimed his love for me, and while I have no proof that his intentions are honest and true, I return the sentiments without withholding any part of myself. My pen cannot help but write how much I miss him and, as I teased in my last letter, how I would give anything to spill tea on him again. There are times when reality seems to bear down on me like the hull of a large ship moving toward a small dingy. James will take his place at the helm of his family's empire, marry a suitable girl, and father a brood of children who will follow in his footsteps. They will have dark, wavy hair and white teeth, and I will remain here, in the shop, carrying my father in his old age and my father's legacy until I am too old to read the recipes. Then, I will close the shop and live quietly on my own, passing from this earth with a small headstone I bought for myself. There are places I could go to study medicine. England has a woman's only medical school, an oasis for young ladies who wish to advance in the sciences. It seems as far away as our own medical university that has yet to lift its ban on female students. I've seen the suffragettes on the soapboxes calling for change and the right to vote. I listen. I support. But that is not my calling in this life. I know because I asked God. A part of me yearns for the changes that are growing inside of me to be reflected in the world where I live. God does not make accidents. It's an awful day when that ship sails into my harbor. It comes unbidden because I know that I cannot live a lie and can't pretend to be someone I'm not. My heart, my soul, my very essence is tied to this place, to the work that I do. To abandon that, to turn my back on the people who need me, would be to lose myself entirely. Not to mention, I do love my father. I loved him before Mother died, but her passing bonded the two of us in a way that I can only describe as having happened in the blacksmith fire. As the summer fades into fall, I watch the leaves turn from green to gold, the world around me shifting and changing in ways that I cannot control. And I go on, one day at a time, one customer at a time. I find joy in the small moments, in the grateful smiles of those I have helped, in the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. I cherish the love of my father, the support of my community, and the knowledge that I am making a difference in the world, no matter how small. The memory of my week spent with James will have to last an entire lifetime, and his letters will sustain me in the lonely years ahead. So I let myself become a daydreamer, something I used to mock in others whom I believed were simple-minded. Now I know that they were not silly, they were leading with their heart, and I've only just found mine. It's a strange world indeed. See Pater 6. Over our usual quiet dinner, the only sounds were the clink of silverware against porcelain and the occasional crackle of the fire in the hearth. My father cleared his throat, catching my attention from where my thoughts had drifted to James's latest letter. The shipping business runs on the water, and a storm blew several of his ships off course, thus delaying his opportunity to return to Harborview. It seems every time he plans to visit, the business gets in the way. I glance up, taking in the pensive furrow of father's brow and the way his weathered hands fidget with the napkin in his lap. Something on your mind? I ask, setting down my fork and giving him my full attention. It's rare to see him so unsettled, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a nervous energy that sets my own nerves on edge. He meets my gaze, his blue eyes, so like my own, filled with a mixture of pride and trepidation. I received something in the mail today, Sarah. Something I think you should see. With that, he reaches into his vest pocket and withdraws an envelope, the heavy parchment bearing the unmistakable seal of the medical community of Harborview. My breath hitches in my throat as he slides it across the table towards me, my fingers trembling slightly as I pick it up and turn it over in my hands. What is this? I whisper, my voice barely audible over the sudden pounding of my heart. I've seen that seal before, emblazoned on the crisp white coats of the university's most renowned professors, the ones who stride through the halls with an air of purpose and authority. My father clears his throat again, his voice gruff with emotion. It's an application, my dear, for their Advanced Botanical Sciences program. The world seems to tilt on its axis, the room spinning around me as the implications of his words sink in. The Advanced Botanical Sciences program, the most prestigious course of study in the entire university, is reserved for only the brightest and most promising students. It isn't medical school, but it's the closest thing a woman could get to. Applications to the school are few and far between. Attendance is usually decided by invitation. My name is printed at the top. But how? I managed to choke out, my eyes wide with disbelief. I never even mentioned it to anyone. My father's face softens, a gentle smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. You didn't have to, Sarah. I know you know your heart better than anyone. I've seen the way your eyes light up when you talk about the latest research, the way you pour yourself into your studies like a woman possessed. I shake my head, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he's offering me. Father, I can't. It's my duty to uphold our legacy, to carry on the work that you and Mother started. His eyes mist over at the mention of my mother, his beloved wife, whom he still loves. She would want more for you than a life spent here when you long for more. She would want you to follow your heart. My heart is with James. He's the one who awakened it, and therefore it belongs to him. But my mind? My mind belongs to medicine. I push the application away, my vision blurring with unshed tears. My innermost self is being twisted and pulled, mushed together, and then dragged apart again. What about you? I couldn't bear to leave you here each day, to abandon you when you need me most. My father is silent for a long moment, his gaze distant as he stares into the flickering flames of the hearth. When he speaks again, his voice is heavy with emotion, each word carefully chosen. You have been the light of my life since the day you were born, a constant source of joy and pride in a world that has not always been kind. I have watched you grow from a curious child into a brilliant young woman, your mind as sharp as a scalpel and your heart as big as the sea. He reaches across the table to take my hand in his palm rough and calloused from years of grinding herbs and stirring cauldrons. I know the sacrifices you have made for this family, the dreams you have put aside, and I am so proud of you, so grateful for everything you have done. But I cannot let you continue to deny yourself the life you were meant to live, the path that calls to you like a siren's song. Tears spill down my cheeks as I listen to his words, each one a balm to the ache in my soul. Father, I don't know what to say. The thought of leaving you, of striking out on my own, it terrifies me. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? He squeezes my hand, his grip strong and reassuring. You are Sarah Whitman, daughter of Elias and Amelia. You have the strength of your mother's spirit and the wisdom of your father's heart. There is nothing in this world that you cannot achieve, no obstacle that you cannot overcome. And I will be with you every step of the way, cheering you on from the sidelines and marveling at the incredible woman you have become. I let out a shuddering breath, my heart swelling with the love and gratitude that threatens to overwhelm me. Do you really mean it? Do I truly have your blessing to pursue this path, to chase this impossible dream? My father's smile is like the sun breaking through the clouds, warm and radiant. With all my heart, my dear, you have always had my blessing, even if I was too stubborn to say it out loud. I see now that holding you back, keeping you tethered to this shop in this life, would be the greatest disservice I could do you. You are meant for great things, Sarah. I rise from my chair, circling the table to throw my arms around him, burying my face in the crook of his neck like I did when I was a little girl. He holds me close, his embrace strong and steady, a haven in the midst of the storm. Thank you, Father, I whisper, my voice thick with tears. We stay like that for a long moment, two hearts beating as one, united in love and understanding. When at last we pull apart, my father's eyes are shining with pride, his face alight with a joy that takes my breath away. Go on, then, he says, nodding towards the envelope still lying on the table. Open it. With trembling fingers, I slide my knife beneath the wax seal, breaking it open with a satisfying crack. I unfold the heavy parchment, my eyes scanning the elegantly scripted words with growing wonder. Dear Miss Whitman, I read aloud, my voice shaking with excitement. It is our great pleasure to invite you to apply for the Advanced Botanical Sciences program at the prestigious medical community of Harborview. Your attendance at our last conference, along with several of the comments you made about willow bark, have caught the attention of one of our professors who was willing to sponsor your application. I look up at my father, my eyes wide with disbelief. They want me, Father. They actually want me. He grins, his face split wide with joy. Of course they do. I rise from my chair, my steps light and purposeful as I make my way to the desk in the corner of the room. I pull out a fresh sheet of parchment, dipping my quill into the inkwell with a steady hand. And as the words begin to flow, as I pour my heart and soul onto the page, I feel a sense of rightness, of inevitability, settle over me like a warm embrace. To the esteemed faculty of the medical community of Harborview, I begin my hand flying across the page with growing confidence. It is with great enthusiasm and gratitude that I accept your invitation to apply for the Advanced Botanical Sciences program. As the daughter of a respected apothecary and a lifelong student of the healing arts, I believe that I possess the knowledge, skills, and passion necessary to excel in this prestigious course of study. My father watches me write, his eyes shining with pride and love. "You will change the world, my dear," he says softly, his voice filled with certainty. I have no doubt of that. He wanders off to bed, and I continue to work on my letter, crossing out words and rewriting sections. I'll let it sit overnight and then give it another read-through before I write the final draft. When I'm done, I take another sheet of paper and start Dear James. Chapter 7. Emboldened by my father's support of my academic ambitions, I find myself drawn to the Harborview Public Library, the ivy-covered facade and arched windows casting a soft, inviting glow in the fading light of day. The heavy oak door swings shut behind me with a muffled thud, the familiar scent of leather and parchment welcoming me in like an old friend. I make my way through the stacks, my footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. The sound of turning pages and scratching pens fills the air and calls to the thirst for knowledge that burns within me. This is a place of refuge where I can lose myself in the words of the great minds that have come before me. Here, I am not refused entrance. I don't have to apply for a seat in class. All the books are mine to absorb, and absorb I must. If I'm going to make it into the program and succeed, then I will need to know more than they expect of any man. That's the way things are. Only exceptionality will set me apart. I settle into my usual spot, a cozy armchair tucked away in a secluded corner, the worn leather soft and supple beneath my fingers. My gathered stack of books teeters precariously on the small table beside me. I reach for the first one, a weighty tome bound in rich burgundy leather, the title emblazoned in gold leaf, a treatise on the medicinal properties of botanical specimens. I crack open the cover, the musty scent of old paper and ink filling my nostrils, and begin to read, my mind warring with each new piece of information. I scribble notes, my hand flying across the page as I try to keep up with the flood of ideas that pour forth from the text. It's exhilarating, this pursuit of knowledge, this feeling of my mind expanding with each new concept. Even as I lose myself in the intricacies of plant physiology and chemical compounds, my thoughts can't help but wander to James Parker and his ocean deep blue eyes. I can still hear the timbre of his voice. I wonder what he's doing now, if he's hunched over his own stack of books in some library in Boston. I can only imagine what excitement they have there. His brow furrows in concentration as he tries to unravel the mysteries of the universe. Or perhaps he's in his father's office, poring over ledgers and shipping manifests, his mind consumed with the mundane details of running a successful business empire. I ache for him at that moment. A mind like his should be free to pursue the great and wonderful, not the mundane. I shake my head, trying to dispel the distracting thoughts. James is a world away. While his letters are bright spots in my week and continue to hold my attention, and as much as he still holds my heart, I've come to the decision that I have to put him in a box. The post office and letters are the only place in my world where that love is free to roam. In all other aspects, I must keep it at bay so that I can become who I was put on this earth to be. I have my own path to follow, my dreams to chase. I refocus on my research, my eyes scanning the pages with renewed intensity. I'm so engrossed in a particularly fascinating passage that I barely register the sound of footsteps approaching, the gentle clearing of a throat that signals someone's presence. "Miss Whitman," comes a familiar voice, warm and rich with pleasure. I glance up, startled to see James himself standing before me, a bright smile lighting up his handsome face. He's dressed impeccably in a finely tailored suit of charcoal gray, his dark hair tousled by the breeze that wafts through the open windows. "Mr. Parker?" I gasp in wonder. I blink several times, wondering if I've conjured up this vision. What are you doing here?" I say in shock. He grins, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I got your letter about being invited to apply to the botanicals program and hopped on a ship to congratulate you in person." My mouth falls open. "James," I breathe his name in shock. No one, besides my father, has ever gone to such efforts to congratulate me for anything. He taps the book in my hands. "I see you're already getting ahead of the class." I tip my head back and laugh. And just like that, we're off, launching into an animated discussion of medical text and our latest studies. Our voices rise and fall in a passionate duet. I lean into him, drawn in by the magnetism of his presence. We pick up right where we left off. No awkwardness or even formalities. As James and Sarah know, the familiarity gained through writing letters spills over into our interaction. We're so engrossed in our conversation that we barely notice the stern shove that comes from the librarian's desk, the disapproving glare that he shoots our way. Normally, I'm one of his favorite people because I always put back my own books. We glance at each other sheepishly, chastened by the reminder of where we are. Perhaps we should take this discussion outside, James suggests, his voice low and spiritorial. I don't think the librarian appreciates our enthusiasm. I nod, gathering up my books and notes with a rueful grin. Lead the way. I'm always eager for a chance to stretch my legs and my mind. We make our way out of the library, the cool evening air a welcome respite from the stuffy confines of the stacks. The streets of Harborview are alive with activity, the gas lamps flickering to life as the sun dips below the horizon. We fall into step beside each other, our arms brushing occasionally as we navigate the crowded sidewalks. As we walk, I find myself sharing my newly reignited dreams of pioneering groundbreaking medical research someday. I tell him of the long hours I've spent poring over books, the experiments I've conducted in the back room of my father's shop, and the thrill of discovery that comes with each new breakthrough. It's been over a month, and yet it feels like I said goodbye just yesterday. He listens raptly, his eyes wide with admiration. "You're a remarkable woman, Sarah," he says softly, his voice filled with awe. To have such drive, such determination, it's truly inspiring. I feel a flush of pleasure at his words, a warmth that spreads through my chest like wildfire. I'm not even admitted to the school yet. He shakes his head, a wry smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You're a trailblazer. I have no doubt that you'll be in class and pestering professors during office hours." We walk on, our conversation meandering from topic to topic like a lazy river. "How long can you stay?" I ask, almost scared of the answer. His face falls. "My ship leaves tomorrow. Truly, I threw myself aboard the lucky day just before it cast off. I didn't even bring a case." He lifts his arms to show how empty they are. I have to be back before the shipping office opens in the morning. My heart falls because it knows it will be on that ship with him. However, I should return to Harborview soon, as father wants to establish this port more firmly. I believe the family will move here within the month. He grins. "You will grow tired of me, obviously, but I will haunt you between classes." "I look forward to that very much." I smile down at my shoes. Indeed, I've been worried about the solitude I will experience on campus. He brushes his hand against mine in a movement that would be undetected by those on the street around us. "I won't let that happen." My breath catches. A police officer walks between us, and we're forced apart. He tips his hat at me as he moves by, and I give him a polite smile, regaining some of my thoughts that are scattered at James's touch. We rejoined one another, the thing that sparks to life and leaps awake between us contained once again. It is a good thing we are on the street, or I may allow him to take the liberty of kissing me. Before I know it, the sun has set, and the streets have emptied, the bustle of the day giving way to the hush of night. We've wandered back toward my home, lost in our own world. "I should be getting back," I say reluctantly, my voice tinged with regret. "My father will be wondering where I've been." James nods, his longing expression mirroring my own. Of course. We stand there for a moment, the silence stretching between us like a living thing. I feel a sudden urge to reach out, to take his hand in mine, to hold on to this moment for just a little longer. "Thank you for the stimulating conversation," I say instead, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. "I'm so grateful you followed your impulse." He smiles, his eyes soft and warm in the lamplight. "Me too. It seems I'm happiest when I am with you. I look forward to continuing our discussion soon." I stare at him, wishing things were different, that we were in the same circles, the same city even. Soon enough, though. He reached out and brushes the back of his finger on my cheek, searing me with his touch. My breath stutters. "James?" I don't know what's happening to me. I can't control the feelings he stirs within my soul. "I can't leave, Sarah," he whispers. "You'll have to be the one to walk away. Please. Or I will not be able to go." I gulp. Certainly I can find some strength to turn away, to walk into the shop. I think of my father watching out the window, worried for me now that it's late, and that's all it takes. With a final nod of farewell, I turn and make my way back towards the door to the apothecary. He's made no promise that we'll be together as more than colleagues, though he speaks with such tenderness that I can't believe I mean so little to him. His family is moving to Harborview, and for now, the promise of seeing him again is enough. I find myself humming a tune under my breath. The stars twinkle overhead, a vast canopy of light that seems to stretch on forever. And in that moment, I feel a sense of peace wash over me, the certainty that everything will work out in the end. I may be a woman in a man's world, a dreamer in a sea of practicality, and I happen to be in love with a man who owns ships, so who knows what will become of us. As I round the corner and catch sight of the familiar facade of my father's shop, a smile tugs at the corners of my mouth. I push open the door, the tinkling of the bell above my head, a welcome sound. My father looks up from his work, his eyes crinkling with warmth and affection. "You're back late. I was beginning to worry." I crossed the room to him, pressing a kiss to his weathered cheek. "I'm sorry, Father. I lost track of time. Somehow I can't bring myself to tell him about James. He is a secret part of my heart that could shatter if I bring it into the light of day to be evaluated and studied. I'm not even sure I understand it. He would love James, though. I can see the two of them getting along in such a way that I nearly feel guilty about keeping them apart." He chuckles, shaking his head fondly. "That's my girl. Maybe that's the problem. In this shop, I'm my father's girl, and when I'm with James, I'm his. Do I have to give up one to be the other's? It's when questions like that come up that I miss my mother the most." Chapter 8. I make my way down the street toward the post office, my shawl wrapped tightly against the morning chill. Father asked me to retrieve any orders that might have come in for our weekly medicinal supplies, though truth be told, I'm hoping for another letter from James. His correspondence has become the highlight of my day's dot. Inside the post office, the familiar scent of paper and ink greets me. "Mr. Collins, the postmaster?" A friendly nod as I approach the counter. "Good morning, Miss Whitman. Quite a stack for you today." Among the usual business correspondence lies not only one of James's letters, but also a heavy cream envelope bearing the seal of Harborview Medical Hall. The wax is the color of deep burgundy. My heart begins to race at the sight of it, but I force myself to wait until I'm outside before opening either missive dot. The street is relatively quiet at this early hour, with most shops just beginning to open their doors. I find a quiet spot near the town square fountain to read, my fingers trembling slightly as they break the university's sale dot. "To Miss Sarah Whitman," I read, my eyes racing across the page. "The Board of Admissions requires all candidates for the Advanced Botanical Sciences program to present their original research before the faculty. Your application has shown promise, and we invite you to defend your work on the analgesic properties of willow bark next Friday at 2 o'clock. The letter slips from my suddenly nerveless fingers, caught by a gust of wind that threatens to carry it away. A hand shoots out, capturing it before it can escape dot. "I believe this belongs to you," comes James' warm voice, and I look up to find him standing before me, looking handsome as ever in his charcoal gray coat. In his other hand, he holds his usual offering of wildflowers, Queen Anne's lace and late-blooming asters tied with a simple string dot. "James," I exclaim, my heart doing that familiar flutter at his unexpected appearance. I thank you." I accept both the letter and flowers, their subtle fragrance helping to steady my nerves dot. "You look pale," he observes, concern etching his features. "Is everything all right?" I glance down at the letter, then back up at him. I adore that he behaves as though we haven't been apart at all. We pick up and continue on, as if we are meant to always be together, and absences are a formality. The university wants me to present my research next Friday, before the entire faculty board. His eyes light up. "Sarah, that's wonderful news." Then, noting my expression, he adds more softly, though perhaps also rather daunting. "Daunting doesn't begin to describe it, I admit. They hold my entire future in their hands, if I cannot convince them of the merit of my work. Shall we walk?" he suggests, gesturing toward the park. "The morning air might help clear your thoughts, and I'd very much like to hear about your presentation." The flowers are still dewy with morning moisture, their delicate petals perfect in their simplicity. "How thoughtful of you to think of me," I murmur, breathing in their subtle fragrance dot. "I find myself thinking of you rather often," he admits, his voice dropping to that low timbre that seems to resonate in my very bones. He takes the stack of letters and places them inside his coat, so I don't have to fumble with them while we walk. We fall into step beside each other, close enough that our shoulders occasionally brush. The contact, though slight, feels electric through the layers of wool and cotton that separate us. Our conversation flows as naturally as the tide, moving from the suffragette movement gaining momentum in Boston to recent medical discoveries to the sermon he heard last Sunday. James gestures enthusiastically as he speaks, his passion for knowledge matching my own. But surely you must agree that Plato's allegory of the cave has particular relevance to our modern understanding of scientific observation? Perhaps, I counter, warming to the debate, though I would argue that empirical evidence holds more weight than philosophical conjecture when it comes to medical advancement. We're so engrossed in our discussion that we barely notice the sun's westward journey, the lengthening shadows of late morning stretching across the park's winding paths. We've settled onto a secluded bench, partially hidden from the main thoroughfare by a stand of maple trees ablaze with autumn color. "You're brilliant, you know," James says suddenly, his eyes intense as they meet mine. "The way your mind works, how you see connections that others miss, it's extraordinary." I feel the heat rise to my cheeks at his praise, unused to such direct admiration. "You give me too much credit," I demur, though pleasure winds through me at his words. "I don't give you enough," he counters softly. We turn toward each other on the bench, our hands resting mere inches apart on the weathered wood between us. "Sarah, he pauses, seeming to gather his courage. "I find myself quite taken with you. The world seems to still around us, the ambient sounds of the park fading to nothing as his words hang in the air like fireflies. My heart threatens to beat right out of my chest, and I struggle to draw a proper breath. This is the moment I've longed for, the moment when our careful dance of intellectual companionship tips inevitably towards something more. And you, James, I confess, my voice barely above a whisper. The admission feels like stepping off a cliff and finding I can fly. His eyes darken at my words, and with deliberate slowness he reaches for my hand. I watch, mesmerized, as he brings it to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that feel like a brand upon my skin. The gesture is proper enough by society's standards, and yet the tender reverence with which he performs it makes it feel startlingly intimate. When our eyes meet again, I see in his gaze all the longing and affection that I've tried so hard to keep contained in my own heart. The connection between us feels almost tangible, like the crackling energy in the air before a storm. In this moment, I understand with crystal clarity that there will be no going back from this. My heart, my very soul, belongs irrevocably to this remarkable man who sees me not just as a woman, but as equal partner in intellectual pursuit. I never expected this, I admit, my fingers still tingling where his lips touched them. When I attended that medical conference, I thought only to advance my knowledge, to feed my mind's hunger for learning. I never imagined I, too, was surprised. I went to that conference out of curiosity, hoping to understand more about the scientific advancements that fascinate me. Instead, I found you, brilliant, passionate, utterly captivating you. His words stir something deep within me, a longing not just for romantic love, but for the profound understanding that exists between kindred spirits. "It's dangerous, you know," I say softly, "to feel this way. Your family has expectations, as does society. I'm a shopkeeper's daughter, and I will not be the type of woman they want for you." James shifts closer, his free hand coming up to brush a wayward curl from my cheek. The touch is feather-light. "My dear Sarah, if I wanted a conventional woman, I would hardly have fallen in love with a woman who can discourse on the medicinal properties of herbs and debate the merits of various surgical techniques over breakfast." I lean slightly into his touch, propriety warring with desire. "You make it sound so simple." "Not simple," he corrects, "but worth fighting for." "You're worth fighting for, Sarah. Your dreams, your brilliant mind, your tender heart, all of it. I don't want the type of wife they would pick for me. I want you." Tears prick at my eyes at his words. "James," I breathe his name like a prayer, overcome with emotion. "Are you sure?" His eyes soften as they meet mine. "Yes, love. I love your brilliant mind, your passionate heart, your unwavering dedication to healing and knowledge. I love the way your eyes light up and how you can't help but share your knowledge with anyone who might benefit from it. I love that you see the world not just as it is, but as it could be. The confession hangs in the air between us, weighty with possibility. I think of all the times I told myself that love was not for me, that I would have to choose between my heart and my calling. Yet here sits a man who not only accepts both aspects of who I am, but celebrates them. At this moment, surrounded by the dying light of day and the living warmth of James's presence, I allow myself to dream of a future where love and learning walk hand in hand, where passion for knowledge and passion of the heart need not be separate things. Come, we must get you back to work. He stands and offers me his arm. I do not want to get on your father's bad side so early in the day. He offers me his arm for the walk home. I know that I am no longer just my father's daughter or a hopeful scholar. I am a woman in love, and that love, far from diminishing my other dreams, only makes them burn brighter. We reach the apothecary shop all too soon.
I expect James to bid me farewell at the door as he usually does, but I stop him before he has a chance. "Would you like to come in?" I ask impulsively. "Father should be working on his latest tincture experiments." James's eyes brighten with interest. "I would be honored to meet the man who taught you so much about the healing arts." The bell above the shop door chimes softly as we enter.
The familiar scent of dried herbs and beeswax greets us, and I see James taking it all in with keen interest: the neat rows of glass jars, the bundles of herbs hanging from the rafters, the ancient leather-bound volumes lining the shelves. "Sarah?" Father's voice calls from the back room. "Is that you, dear?" "Yes, Father," I reply, my heart quickening. "And I've brought someone I'd like you to meet." Father emerges from his workroom, wearing his leather apron and a pair of brass spectacles perched on his nose. His silver hair is slightly disheveled, and there's a smudge of something green on his cheek that I suspect is from the feverfew he's been processing. He stops short at the sight of James, surprise evident on his weathered features. "Father, this is Mr. James Parker," I say, willing my voice to remain steady. "He's interested in medicine components, science, and much more." "Ah, the shipping merchant's son who's been giving my daughter wildflowers," Father says with a knowing twinkle in his eye that makes me blush. Of course, he saw the flowers and he may have heard whispers. It's not like the park bench is hidden from view. James steps forward, extending his hand. "Mr. Whitman, it's an honor to meet you, sir. Your reputation as an apothecary is well known, and I've been fascinated by Sarah's accounts of your innovative work with tincture concentrations." Father's eyebrows rise with interest. "You understand the principles of tincture preparation?" "Only what I've learned through my own reading and discussions with Sarah," James admits. I internally cringe at his use of my given name so casually in front of my father. If anything would testify to how close we've become, it's that. But then, perhaps James does it on purpose. He's sending a message of his intent. The relationship between alcohol percentage and medicinal compound extraction is particularly intriguing. I've been reading about similar principles in the latest pharmaceutical journals. Have you indeed? Father's entire demeanor shifts from polite interest to genuine enthusiasm. "Tell me, what are your thoughts on the standardization of dosages?" "It's something I've been working to perfect in my own preparations." Before I knew it, they were deep in conversation about extraction methods and medicinal compounds, Father leading James to his workbench to show him his latest experiments. I watch in amazement as these two men I love most in the world lean over Father's notebooks. "You see here," Father explains, pointing to a particular formula. "I've found that increasing the steeping time while using a lower alcohol concentration actually yields better results with certain herbs." "Fascinating," James replies, studying the notes intently. "How do you test that?" My heart swells as Father launches into an excited explanation, James asking exactly the right questions at exactly the right moments. This is more than I could have hoped for, not just acceptance, but genuine understanding and shared passion. "My word, is that the time?" Father exclaims eventually, glancing at the clock on the wall. "Sarah, why didn't you tell me how late it's gotten?" "Mr. Parker, you must join us for dinner tomorrow evening." "I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on the latest medical advancements." "I would be delighted, sir," James replies, his face glowing with sincere pleasure. "And please, call me James." As James takes his leave, Father pulls me into a warm embrace. "Well done, my girl," he whispers. "Well done indeed." "You approve then?" I ask, though I already know the answer. "My dear, any man who can discuss chemical compounds with such enthusiasm and look at my daughter with such respect has my wholehearted approval." He kisses my forehead gently. "Your mother would have loved him, too." I lean into my father's embrace, my heart full to bursting. The evening has brought more blessings than I could have imagined. Love declared, understanding gained, and a future that seems brighter than ever. "Now then," Father says, pulling back to look at me with twinkling eyes, "shall we discuss your presentation to the faculty board? I have some thoughts about strengthening your argument." And just like that, we fall into our familiar routine, but now with the warm knowledge that our family circle has grown to include one more keen scientific mind. Chapter 9. The brass hands of my father's pocket watch crawl steadily toward midnight as I make yet another revision to my presentation notes. The lamp oil burns low, casting wavering shadows across the pages where I've meticulously documented years of botanical research. My cramping fingers leave tiny ink smudges along the margins as I add notes about the seasonal variations in potency, how spring harvests yield marginally higher concentrations of the pain-relieving compounds than autumn collections.
The data fills volume after volume of my research journals, each observation carefully recorded, and each experiment documented with scientific precision. Charts and pressed specimens litter my desk, the dried plants carefully labeled with their Latin names and dates of collection. A half-drunk cup of chamomile tea sits forgotten at my elbow, long since gone cold. Sarah. My father's gentle voice startles me from my absorption in a particularly detailed chart comparing extraction methods. You need rest, dear one. Tomorrow is your big day. I look up, blinking away the after-images of my own handwriting that seem burned into my vision. My neck protests the movement, stiff from hours spent over my work. Father stands in the doorway of my small study, still wearing his work apron with traces of herb dust clinging to the leather. The concern in his eyes makes me realize just how late it must be. Just one more revision, Father. I want to be certain my explanation of the extraction process is clear enough for even the most skeptical member of the board. I gesture to the diagram before me, showing the precise ratios of alcohol to water needed for optimal extraction of medicinal compounds. Professor Blackwood is known for his opposition to traditional remedies. I need to ensure my evidence is irrefutable. He crosses to my desk, laying a weathered hand on my shoulder. The familiar scent of rosemary and mint clings to his fingers. Your research is sound. Professor Hamilton himself said your application showed remarkable promise. Now you need a clear head more than you need another revision. I know he's right, but sleep feels impossible. My stomach churns with a mixture of excitement and terror at the thought of standing before the university's most distinguished professors tomorrow. I've dreamed of this opportunity since I was a girl, sneaking peeks at medical texts in the library while other young ladies practiced their embroidery in French. Now that it's finally here, I feel simultaneously more prepared and less ready than I've ever been. What if they don't understand, Father? What if they refuse to see past their preconceptions about women and medicine? I voice the fear that's been gnawing at me these past weeks. I know my research is thorough, but will they even give it a fair hearing? Then they will prove themselves fools, he says simply, pressing a kiss to my forehead. His absolute faith in me brings tears to my eyes. Now, to bed with you. Despite his sensible advice, I lie awake long into the night, my mind racing. The moonlight streaming through my window casts strange shadows on the ceiling, and I find myself counting them instead of sheep. Each shadow seems to take the shape of a different worry. My presentation, the professor's reactions, James. My heart gives that familiar flutter at the thought of him, even as a new anxiety twists in my stomach. He was so excited when I told him about the invitation to present, his blue eyes lighting up with genuine pride and enthusiasm. He believes in me so completely and sees no limits to what I might achieve. And yet, a new worry has taken root lately, growing like bindweed around my thoughts. For all his progressive ideas and genuine love of science, James comes from a world of privilege and strict social hierarchies. His father owns a fourth of the ships in the harbor. His mother has become known for hosting the most elegant social gatherings in town. And here I am, with my ink-stained fingers and unfashionable dedication to medicine, so different from the polished young ladies of his social circle. He hasn't introduced me to his family yet. Perhaps he's realized that a humble apothecary's daughter might not be what his parents envisioned for their son. I know he loves me. I feel it in every glance, every heated scientific debate, every gentle brush of his hand against mine. But love isn't always enough in our world. Social standing matters. Family connections matter. My thoughts circle endlessly, like leaves caught in an eddy. I rehearse my presentation in my head, then worry about James, and then return to fretting over particular points of my research. The night seems endless, though the moon's slow journey across my window tells me time is indeed passing. Morning arrives all too soon, pale sunlight creeping across my bed, where I've finally drifted into a fitful doze. I dress with particular care, choosing my best navy blue dress with its simple lines and respectable cut. The wool is fine enough to be presentable in academic circles, but not so fine as to seem presumptuous. My hands shake as I pin up my unruly red curls, trying to tame them into a suitably academic style. Father walks with me to the university, carrying my visual aids, carefully prepared charts showing the results of my experiments with various preparation methods. The autumn air is crisp and clean, helping to settle my nerves somewhat. Leaves crunch beneath our feet, and the scent of wood smoke from nearby chimneys fills the air. As we approach the imposing stone edifice of the medical hall, I spot a familiar figure waiting by the entrance. James straightens as he sees us approach, his face breaking into that warm smile that never fails to make my heart skip. He's dressed formally in a beautifully tailored black coat, every inch the successful merchant's son. A silk cravat is perfectly knotted at his throat, his boots polished to a mirror shine. The contrast between us has never felt more stark, and yet the look in his eyes as he takes in my appearance makes me forget all such concerns momentarily. "You look perfect," he says softly, then adds with a twinkle, "every inch, the distinguished botanical researcher you are." His gaze travels to the charts under Father's arm. "Allow me to help with those, sir." We enter the hall together, James carrying my charts now while Father squeezes my hand encouragingly before going to find a seat. The lecture hall is already filling with professors and medical students, their murmured conversations creating a low buzz that sets my nerves humming again. The room smells of furniture polish and leather-bound books, with undertones of tobacco smoke from pipes. I recognize Professor Hamilton near the front, his kind face offering a reassuring nod. His salt and pepper beard is neatly trimmed, and his wire-rimmed spectacles catching the light from the tall windows. Beside him sits Professor Blackwood, the stern dean whose approval I'll need to win. His dark eyes measure me already, his expression giving nothing away. James helps me set up my visual aids before taking his seat in the front row. "Show them what I already know," he whispers, and the pure confidence in his voice steadies me. He arranges himself in his chair, every movement speaking of the easy grace that comes from generations of good breeding. I push away the voice that whispers about our differences, focusing instead on the warmth in his eyes. Professor Hamilton rises to introduce me, his cultured voice carrying easily through the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome Miss Sarah Whitman, who will present her original research on the standardization and efficacy of botanical medicines, with a particular focus on the analgesic properties of willow bark preparations." Ms. Whitman comes to us with impressive recommendations and a novel approach to quantifying traditional remedies. I step up to the podium, my notes arranged precisely before me. The leather binding of my research journal is smooth beneath my fingers, grounding me in the familiar. For a moment, the sea of faces swims before my eyes, dozens of distinguished gentlemen in their dark coats, a few brave female nurses seated discreetly near the back. Then I find James's steady gaze and draw strength from it. I take a deep breath, filling my lungs with the scholarly air of the hall, and begin. "Distinguished faculty members, honored guests." For centuries, botanical medicines have formed the backbone of healing practices across cultures. Yet too often, these traditional remedies have been dismissed as mere folk wisdom, lacking scientific rigor. Today, I present evidence that demonstrates not only the efficacy of certain plant-based medicines, but also proposes standardized methods for their preparation and administration. As I delve into my research, my voice grows stronger, taking on the quiet authority that comes from years of careful study. I guide my audience through the methodology first, the careful documentation of harvest times, the precise measurement of ingredients, and the standardization of preparation methods that allow for consistent results. Traditional wisdom tells us that mint eases arthritis pain, I explain, gesturing to my first chart, which shows a careful mapping of patient responses. But without understanding why and how, we cannot effectively harness its properties. Through systematic testing, I have identified optimal harvesting conditions and preparation methods that yield consistently potent medicine. The scratch of pens against notepaper fills the air as several professors take notes. Even Professor Blackwood leans forward slightly. His stern expression is unchanged, but his attention is clearly caught. I move to my second chart, which details the correlation between preparation methods and efficacy. Note how the concentration of active compounds varies significantly based on the extraction method. Using a higher percentage of alcohol in the menstruum yields demonstrably stronger medicine, but only up to a certain point. I indicate the graph showing the relationship. Beyond 80% alcohol concentration, the extraction becomes less effective, suggesting that some water content is necessary for optimal results. A murmur of interest ripples through the audience. This is the kind of precise measurable data they understand, not the vague assertions they might have expected from an apothecary's daughter. I catch James's eye briefly. He gives me the slightest nod of encouragement. Furthermore, I continue turning to my third chart. I have documented clear patterns in seasonal variation. Spring harvested mint, particularly from young plants, shows markedly higher concentrations of pain-relieving compounds. By controlling for these variables, we can ensure consistent potency in our preparations. Professor Hamilton raises his hand, his eyes bright with interest. "Miss Whitman, have you investigated whether this seasonal pattern holds true for other medicinal herbs?" "Indeed, sir," I respond, grateful for the question. "I've begun preliminary studies of cherry bark and slippery elm, both of which show similar seasonal variations, though the optimal harvest times differ. I've included this data in Appendix C of my written findings." The questions begin coming more quickly now, each one allowing me to demonstrate another aspect of my research. Professor Blackwood's interrogation about my control methods gives me an opportunity to explain the double-blind trials I conducted, comparing my standardized preparations against traditional methods and inactive preparations. Most interesting, he says, slowly, making a note in his leather-bound notebook. And your method for measuring pain reduction? I describe my system of patient self-reporting combined with objective observations of mobility and inflammation. The methodology is rigorous, it has to be, knowing how closely it would be scrutinized. For nearly an hour, I command the hall's attention, methodically building my case for the scientific validity of properly prepared botanical medicines. I can sense the shift in the room as skepticism gives way to genuine interest. These men respect data, careful methodology, and clear documentation. I've given them exactly that, wrapped in the familiar language of scientific inquiry. When I finally concluded my presentation, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. James is beaming, his face alight with pride, but I barely have time to register his expression before Professor Hamilton approaches the podium, extending his hand. Remarkable work, Miss Whitman. Simply remarkable. His grip is firm, his expression one of genuine respect. I would very much like to discuss the possibility of you joining my research team. We're beginning a comprehensive study of biochemical properties and traditional remedies, and your methodical approach would be invaluable. I barely have time to stammer my grateful acceptance before others crowd around, asking questions and offering congratulations. Professor Blackwood's approval comes in the form of a curt nod and a request for a copy of my complete findings. From him, this is high praise indeed. Through it all, I'm acutely aware of James waiting patiently at the edges of the group, his eyes never leaving me. He stands with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to moving in distinguished circles, but there's something else in his expression, a fierce pride and tender affection that makes my heart turn over. When the crowd finally thins, he approaches with that devastating smile. "Dinner?" he suggests. I believe this calls for a celebration. I accept his arm, my heart soaring. Whatever concerns I had about his family seemed distant now, overwhelmed by the pure joy of scientific achievement and the warmth of his obvious pride in me. Tomorrow I may worry again about social standings and family expectations, but tonight belongs to triumph and possibility. Father joins us, his eyes suspiciously bright. "My brilliant girl," he murmurs, pulling me into a quick embrace. "Your mother would have been so proud." As we leave the hall, I glance back at my charts, still standing by the podium, visual proof that dreams can become reality with enough determination. The late afternoon sun streams through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor and making the brass fixtures gleam. "Where shall we dine?" James asks as we descend the stone steps into the crisp autumn evening. This occasion calls for something special. The world seems brighter somehow, filled with endless possibilities. I've proved myself in the hallowed halls of academia and earned the respect of some of the finest scientific minds in Harborview. The future stretches before me like an unwritten page in my research journal, full of promise and possibility. And as I walk between the two men I love most in the world, my father, who taught me to heal, and James, who teaches me to dream, I feel ready to fill that page with discoveries yet unimagined. Chapter 10. The Whispered Leaf Tea Shop has been a sanctuary for Harborview's ladies for as long as I can remember, its lace-curtained windows and discreet location making it perfect for private conversations. Today, as I push open the door, the familiar tinkling of the bell seems to mock my nervous anticipation. James's note requesting an urgent meeting arrived this morning, its hastily scrawled words betraying an uncharacteristic agitation. The rich aroma of freshly brewed tea and warm pastries envelops me like a welcoming embrace, chasing away the lingering chill of the autumn air. I spot James already seated at a corner table, his usual confident posture replaced by a tent set to his shoulders. He rises as I approach, but the smile he offers doesn't reach his eyes as eyes. "Sarah," he greets me softly, pulling out my chair. The table between us is worn but sturdy, its rich patina speaking to countless conversations held over steaming cups and whispered secrets. The billowing curtains at the window sway gently in the breeze, shielding us from prying eyes and wagging tongues. A matronly waitress appears at our table, her gray hair neatly tucked beneath a spotless cap. "A full tea?" she asks kindly. James nods distractedly, his fingers drumming an anxious pattern on the tablecloth. Something is terribly wrong. I've never seen him so unsettled. My heart begins to race, though I maintain a calm exterior as the waitress brings our tea and biscuits, the delicate china cups rattling slightly on their saucers. "James," I prompt gently once we're alone. What's troubling you? He takes a deep breath, staring into his teacup as if it might hold the words he's struggling to find. I told my parents about your research position, he finally says, his voice tight with suppressed emotion, about Professor Hamilton's offer and your brilliant presentation. My hands grow cold despite the warm cup between them. This is the moment I've been dreading, the collision of our two worlds that I feared would shatter everything we've built. He falters, then continues with obvious difficulty. They did not react as I'd hoped. Tell me, I whisper, though part of me wants to flee to preserve the perfect bubble of happiness we've inhabited these past weeks. Jane's knuckles whiten around his cup. My mother, she laughed at first, as if it were some sort of jest. When she realized I was serious about courting a woman who intended to pursue an academic career, her amusement turned to horror. His voice takes on a bitter edge I've never heard before. A woman of her station, she said, should know her place. Each word falls like a physical blow. Though I'd anticipated resistance, the reality of such naked disdain cuts deep. My father was worse, James continues, unable to meet my eyes. He called you. He said such things, Sarah, about your character, your morals. He claimed that any woman who would put scholarly pursuits above marriage must be of loose virtue and dangerous feminist leanings. My cheeks burn with humiliation and anger. I see, I manage, my voice barely steady. And did you defend me? Now James does look up, his blue eyes fierce with emotion. Of course I did. I told him about your brilliant mind, your dedication to healing, and the respect you've earned from the university faculty. I tried to make them understand how remarkable you are and how your work could advance medical science. But they wouldn't listen, I finished softly. He shakes his head, running a hand through his dark hair in frustration. They're trapped in their narrow worldview, unable to see beyond social conventions. My father threatened to cut me off without a penny if I continued to see you. My mother wept as if I'd announced my intention to marry a criminal. The tea grows cold between us as silence stretches. Outside our sheltered corner, other patrons chatter and laugh, their ordinary concerns seeming to belong to another world entirely. The curtains billow again, and I wish they could shield us from more than just curious eyes. James suddenly pushes back his chair, beginning to pace in the small space beside our table. His jaws clenched, hands clasped behind his back in a posture of obvious internal struggle. I watch him, my heart aching. This is exactly what I feared, being the cause of strife between James and his family. Perhaps, I begin carefully, it would be better if we don't. He cuts me off, turning to face me with such intensity that I fall silent. Don't offer to step aside for my family's sake. I won't accept it. James, be reasonable. My family is wrong, he states flatly. They're wrong about you, wrong about women's capabilities, wrong about everything that matters. And they'll see that if you'll give them a chance. I stare at him, uncomprehending. What do you mean? He returns to his seat, reaching across the table to take my hands in his. They're hosting a dinner party next week. Important business associates, local politicians, the usual tedious affair. Come with me. Let them meet you and see your intelligence and grace firsthand. They can't possibly maintain their prejudices once they know you. James, I try to withdraw my hands, but he holds firm. You can't truly think that's a good idea. They've made judgments without evidence, he argues, the scientist in him showing through even now. Let them observe you, interact with you. Your presence alone will challenge their preconceptions. I shake my head, torn between love for this man who believes so completely in me and fear of the humiliation that surely awaits. They'll only see what they expect to see, an uppity apothecary's daughter who doesn't know her place. Then we'll prove them wrong. His thumb traces gentle circles on my palm, sending shivers up my arm despite my distress. Sarah, I love you. I won't let my parents' prejudices stand between us. Love isn't always enough, I whisper, voicing the fear that's haunted me since we began this courtship. No, he agrees, surprisingly. Love alone isn't enough. But love combined with courage, with conviction, with a willingness to fight for what's right, that's unstoppable. His eyes hold mine, willing me to believe. You've never backed down from a challenge in your academic pursuits. Why start now? A laugh escapes me, though it's slightly watery. Defending my research to professors who respect logic and evidence is quite different from facing down your mother's social prejudices. Is it? He raises an eyebrow. In both cases, you're challenging established beliefs with facts and personal excellence. The only difference is the field of battle. Put that way, it does seem like merely another form of academic defense. Yet the stakes feel infinitely higher. What if I make things worse? What if you change their minds, he counters. What if you help them see that a woman can be both brilliant and feminine, both scholarly and socially graceful? His voice softens. What if you show them why their son loves you? The hope in his voice undoes me. How can I deny him this chance to reconcile the two halves of his life? And perhaps he's right. Perhaps direct interaction is the only way to challenge deeply held prejudices. Very well, I concede finally. I'll attend your parents' dinner party. Before he can celebrate this victory, I add firmly, but I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I won't hide my intelligence or my ambitions to make them comfortable. I would never ask you to, he assures me quickly. Your true self is who I want them to meet. He lifts my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that makes the waitress clear her throat disapprovingly as she passes. Thank you, Sarah. I know this isn't easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is, I quote his own words back to him, managing a small smile. We finish our tea in contemplative silence, both lost in thoughts of the upcoming dinner party. As James helps me with my cloak before leaving, he murmurs, "Wear the blue dress, the one you wore for your presentation. You looked every inch the distinguished researcher in it." Not exactly dinner party attire, I point out. Exactly dinner party attire for who you are, he corrects. Let them see you as I do, brilliant, dedicated, and utterly magnificent. Walking home, I try to hold on to his confidence. The chill autumn wind whips at my skirts, and I pull my cloak tighter. What am I getting myself into? James's parents move into the highest social circles of Harborview. Their dinner parties are elegant and exclusive. I'll be walking into a den of lions armed only with my wits and James's faith in me, but perhaps that's enough. I face academic prejudice with evidence and excellence. Why not social prejudice as well? The thought straightens my spine and lifts my chin. As I reach the apothecary shop, I pause with my hand on the door. The familiar scent of herbs drifts out, reminding me of who I am and where I come from. I am my father's daughter, raised to heal and help others. I am a woman of science dedicated to advancing medical knowledge, and I am deeply, irrevocably in love with a man who sees no contradiction between these aspects of my identity. For him, for us, I will face down any number of disapproving society matrons. Let them judge. The bell chimes as I enter the shop, and father looks up from his work with a knowing smile. Tea with James? He asks, noting my thoughtful expression. Yes, I reply, hanging up my cloak. And an invitation to dinner with his family next week. Father's eyebrows rise, but he merely says, "Well then, we better make sure your blue dress is properly pressed." I laugh despite my nervousness. Seems the blue dress is a good idea. Chapter 13, the Parker Mansion looms even more imposing in the harsh winter light, its Georgian symmetry, a monument to old money and older prejudices. The white marble steps, though meticulously maintained, feel treacherous beneath my boots as James and I ascend them together. Winter roses, forced to bloom out of season in expensive greenhouses, frame the massive oak door with their unnatural perfection. I hadn't planned to be here for this confrontation. Now, as the butler leads us through the soaring entry hall with its crystal chandelier and gilt-framed ancestors, I wonder if my presence will make things worse or better. The house itself seems designed to intimidate, to remind visitors of their place in the social hierarchy. The Persian carpets probably cost more than a year's worth of our apothecary's earnings. Delicate Chinese vases perch on marble-top tables, their mere presence a statement of wealth and worldliness. Even the air feels expensive, perfumed with hothouse flowers and furniture polish. We're shown into Mr. Parker's study, a room that manages to be both opulent and austere. Dark wooden paneling climbs to a coffered ceiling, while floor-to-ceiling bookshelves hold leather-bound volumes that look more decorative than read. A massive mahogany desk dominates the space, behind which Mr. Parker stands like a general preparing for battle. Mrs. Parker sits regally in a wingback chair nearby, her purple silk dress a splash of calculated elegance against the leather upholstery. James, Mr. Parker's voice fills the room, deliberately excluding me from his greeting. I see you've brought company. Father, mother, James acknowledges them both, his hand finding mine in a gesture that doesn't go unnoticed. You wish to speak with me? In private, Mrs. Parker adds pointedly, her eyes staring over me as if I'm a particularly distasteful piece of furniture. I have chosen Sarah, James replies firmly. Mr. Parker's face darkens as he rounds the desk, his footsteps muffled by the thick oriental carpet. Very well. Perhaps it's fitting she witnessed this. He pauses for effect, straightening his already impeccable waistcoat. The situation has become untenable, James. Your dalliance with this apothecary's daughter has set all of Boston society talking. The Ashworths are mortified, and the Blackwells are scandalized. Our business associates are beginning to question our family's judgment.
I wasn't aware that my personal life required society's approval, James responds coolly. Everything requires society's approval. Mr. Parker's fist crashes down on a delicate rosewood side table, making the crystal decanters jump. We are not common shopkeepers who can do as we please without consequence. We are Parkers. We have a legacy to uphold, connections to maintain, a reputation to protect. The gilt-edged mirror above the fireplace reflects our little tableau, James and I standing together, his parents facing us from opposite sides like opposing generals. Through the tall windows, weak winter sunlight struggles to penetrate the heavy velvet drapes, casting the room in dramatic shadows. "And what of my legacy, Father?" James asked quietly. "Not the Parker name or fortune, but my own contribution to the world? There is more to me than being an accountant." Playing at science like a schoolboy. His father cuts him off with a dismissive wave. "It's time to put aside these childish pursuits and take your proper place in the family business." There's nothing childish about James's work, I interject, unable to remain silent. He has the capability and the mind that could invent the next light bulb or surgical procedure to save lives. You. Mrs. Parker rises from her chair in a rustle of expensive silk. You filled his head with these ridiculous notions, turned him against his family, his duty, his proper place in society. Her perfectly arranged coiffure trembles with indignation. Well, it ends now. Mr. Parker draws himself up to his full height, his shadow falling across us both. "James, I'm giving you one chance, just one, to end this foolishness. Renounce this connection, and we'll put this unfortunate episode behind us. Refuse, and you'll be cut off without a penny. No inheritance, no connections, no support of any kind." I feel James trembling beside me, and my heart seizes. I knew this moment would come, but facing it in this intimidating room, surrounded by generations of Parker wealth and influence, makes it feel so much more real. James straightens, his grip on my hand tightening. When he speaks, his voice is perfectly steady. "If exchanging my birthright is the cost for being with the woman I love, so be it. Though I believe I'm getting the better end of the deal." The silence that follows is absolute. Even the crackling fire in the massive marble fireplace seems to hold its breath. "You can't be serious," Mrs. Parker finally whispers, sinking back into her chair as if her legs won't support her. "James, darling, think about what you're saying. Think about your future." "I am thinking about my future, Mother. A future where I can pursue my passion for science, where I can make a real difference in the world. A future with a woman who challenges me intellectually and supports me unconditionally." "Supports you?" Mr. Parker's laugh is harsh in the book-lined room. "She's bewitched you with her feminine wiles and progressive ideas. Led you astray from everything we've built for you." "The only thing leading me astray was trying to be someone I'm not," James replies. "I'm a scientist at heart, Father. I always have been. Sarah didn't change that. She simply gave me the courage to embrace it." Mrs. Parker rises again, crossing to a Chippendale table where family photographs in silver frames display generations of Parker's prosperity. "You would throw away everything, everything for her? This woman who presumes to be a scholar?" "I'm not playing at anything," I say quietly but firmly. "My research is already gaining recognition in medical circles. Professor Hamilton's team, research." She spits the word like a curse. "Is that what you think you can offer my son? Academic accolades? And what of children? Of a warm meal? Do you think after living with us he could be content with crumbs?" "The Parker name comes with a price I'm no longer willing to pay," James interjects. "I've made my choice." Mr. Parker's face turns an alarming shade of purple. "Then you are no longer my son." He strides to the door, yanking it open with enough force to rattle the family crest mounted above it. "Get out, both of you, and don't expect any further support from this family." "Richard," Mrs. Parker protests weakly. Her husband silences her with a look. "He's made his choice, Margaret. Let him live with the consequences." James leads me from the study through the grand hall with its watching portraits, past the butler who can't quite hide his curiosity. The winter roses mock us as we descend the marble steps, but James doesn't falter. Only when we reach the street does he pull me into his arms, holding me so tightly I can feel his heart hammering against my cheek. "I'm so sorry you had to witness that," he whispers into my hair. "I'm sorry you had to make that choice," I reply, fighting back tears.
He pulls back just enough to meet my eyes, his own bright with emotion. It wasn't really a choice at all. Looking up at him, framed against the winter sky with his family mansion looming behind him, I feel my certainty solidify. This man, this brilliant, courageous man who just gave up everything for love and scientific truth is worth any price. We will more than persevere, I promise him. We'll prove them wrong about everything. Already, my research findings are gaining attention beyond Harborview. Professor Hamilton speaks of publishing our work in London's most prestigious medical journal. The university board is discussing creating a special position for me, one that would allow me to continue my studies while conducting research. As we walk away from the Parker Mansion, I think about all the whispers and sidelong glances we've weathered from Harborview society matrons. But for every disapproving dowager, there's a young girl who stops me to ask about university, who is curious about life outside of the parlor. James's arm is warm around my shoulders as we make our way through the winter streets. Behind us, his family's house stands cold and proud, clinging to its outdated certainties. Ahead lies a future we'll build together, brick by brick, discovery by discovery. Let them talk. Let them judge. We have work to do, my brilliant man and I, and the world will have to listen.
Chapter 11.
The Parker Mansion looms before me, its Georgian facade illuminated by dozens of gas lamps that cast a golden glow across the manicured gardens. While most homes on this end of town have some form of new electrical bulbs, this one has yet to be updated. I'm certain James's parents will correct that as soon as possible. The electrical lights are all the rage now.
From a scientific perspective, I find them fascinating. Harnessing lightning and keeping it in a jar like vegetables after the harvest, what will the human mind accomplish next? My fingers smooth nervously over my watered silk gown, the blue fabric chosen to match my academic presentation dress but made slightly more suitable for evening wear. I couldn't bring myself to wear such a serviceable dress for an evening like this. And while we are not as well off as James's family, we are not paupers. The carriage that James sent for me draws to a halt, and I take a steadying breath before the footman helps me down. Father insisted on lending me mother's pearl earrings for the occasion, simple drops that catch the lamplight as I mount the imposing stone steps. For courage, he'd said as he fastened them on, his weathered fingers gentle. I touch one now, drawing strength from this small connection to the woman who taught me to be proud of who I am. The door opens before I can knock, revealing a butler so perfectly starched and proper that I feel immediately provincial. Miss Whitman, he intones, managing to make my name sound like an unfortunate accident. This way, if you please. I follow him through a marble-floored foyer where my heels click embarrassingly loud, past paintings and gilt frames worth more than our entire shop, and into a drawing room that could comfortably house 3 of our apartments. The assembled guests turn as one to examine me, their gaze as sharp as scalpels. No doubt James's mother has been telling everyone in her circle of her son's shameful interest in a woman of low morals. Before I can locate James in the crowd, a tall woman in rustling purple silk descends upon me. Even without the physical resemblance to James in her dark hair and fine bone structure, I would know Lady Parker by her commanding presence alone. Miss Whitman, she says, her voice pitched to carry to the curious onlookers. How good of you to join us. The pause speaks volumes. Feet. Thank you for the invitation, Mrs. Parker, I respond. Your home is lovely. She examines me as one might inspect a questionable cut of meat. Yes, well, we do try to maintain certain standards. Her eyes linger on my dress, no doubt noting its relatively simple cut and lack of fashionable trim. I understand your family is in trade? The way she says it makes it sound like something unfortunate was found on the bottom of a shoe. I lift my chin slightly, remembering James's encouragement to be proudly myself. My father is Harborview's principal apothecary. The Whitman family has been helping to heal this community for generations. How quaint. Her lips curve in what might technically be called a smile. Though surely such common work must be quite limiting for one with your aspirations. Not at all, I reply, warming to my subject despite her obvious disdain. Our work combines centuries of botanical knowledge with modern scientific methodology. In fact, I've recently been invited to join Professor Hamilton's research team at the university. Oh yes, she interrupts, her voice dripping with false sweetness. James mentioned your little hobby. How progressive of you to pursue such interests. Though surely now that you're of marriageable age, it's time to set aside such diversions and focus on more appropriate feminine accomplishments. Before I can respond to this dismissal of my life's work, she's already turning away. Do come meet the Ashworths. Such a lovely family.
Their daughter Emily plays the pianoforte beautifully and runs her household with perfect efficiency. I'm steered through the crowd, introduced to a blur of faces that regard me with varying degrees of polite horror. The ladies titter behind their fans at my earnest attempts to discuss topics beyond the latest fashions, while the gentlemen regard me as some sort of exotic specimen, interesting perhaps, but certainly not something one would welcome into the family. However, I find a few interested young women in the crowd, those who cut their mothers off before they can toss barbs my way. One, Miss Caroline, says, "I don't understand what the fuss is about. If women could study and vote alongside me, the world would be better for it." Mrs. Parker squeaked, as if someone had pinched her side. Finally, I spot James making his way toward me, but before he can reach us, the dinner gong sounds. Mrs. Parker smoothly intercepts him, directing him to escort the aforementioned Emily Ashworth, while I'm handed off to an elderly gentleman who seems primarily concerned with his gout. He spends his time explaining the pain to me. I, in turn, invite him to the apothecary, where we have several means of relieving his symptoms. The dining room proves even more overwhelming than the drawing room. Crystal chandeliers sparkle above a table that could seat 40, though tonight's intimate gathering is merely 36. The silverware alone presents an intimidating array of options. I find myself seated between my gouty escort and Mr. Parker himself, with James placed deliberately far down the table beside the simpering Miss Ashworth. "So, Miss Whitman," Mr. Parker's commanding voice draws the attention of nearby diners. "What are your thoughts on household management? I trust you've been properly trained in the domestic arts." I take a small sip of wine to buy time. "While I believe efficient household management is important, sir, my primary focus has been on advancing medical knowledge through careful study of botanical remedies." "Yes, yes," he waves away my response impatiently. "But surely you understand that a woman's primary duty is to her home and family? One can't expect a household to run itself while the mistress goes gallivanting off to play at being a scientist." "I don't play at anything, sir," I reply, fighting to keep my voice steady. "My research has already contributed to more effective pain management protocols. Research!" He practically snorts into his soup. "What need has a properly bred young lady for research? Better to focus your energies on more suitable pursuits. Children, for instance. I assume you plan to provide heirs?" The conversation around us has gone quiet, everyone straining to hear my response. I can feel my cheeks burning, but force myself to meet his gaze steadily. Any future family plans would naturally be discussed between myself and my husband, sir. Assuming you find one willing to tolerate such unfeminine interest, Mrs. Parker interjects from across the table. Several guests titter nervously. I realize then that this entire evening has been orchestrated to put me in my place, to demonstrate through 1,000 small cuts just how unsuitable I am for their world. Every introduction, every question, every subtle slight has been carefully designed to emphasize my otherness. The courses parade past in a blur of elaborate dishes I can barely taste. I field increasingly pointed questions about my unusual upbringing, my peculiar interests, my limited social connections. Through it all, I catch glimpses of James further down the table, his jaw increasingly tight as he watches the systematic dismantling of my dignity. When the dessert trays appear elaborate confections that probably cost more than a month's worth of our apothecary supplies, James suddenly pushes back his chair. The screech of wood on wood draws every eye as he rises, wine glass in hand. "I would like to propose a toast," he announces, his voice ringing with suppressed emotion. Mrs. Parker's face goes pale with horror. "To Miss Sarah Whitman," James continues, ignoring his mother's attempt to silence him with a look, "whose brilliant research into botanical medicines has earned her a position with one of the university's most prestigious research teams, whose dedication to advancing medical knowledge through rigorous scientific methodology has already improved countless lives, whose courage in pursuing her calling despite society's prejudices is matched only by her compassion for those she helps heal." Tears prick at my eyes as he turns to face me directly. "I am proud to know you, Sarah. Proud to love a woman who refuses to be limited by other small-minded expectations." The silence that follows his speech is absolute. Mrs. Parker looks as though she might faint. I'm not sure I would lend her smelling salts. Mr. Parker's face has turned an alarming shade of purple. The other guests stare fixedly at their dessert plates as if by not witnessing this breach of social protocol they can pretend it never happened. James, his mother finally manages, her voice strangled. "You forget yourself." "No, Mother," he replies calmly. "I believe I finally found myself." The remainder of the evening passes in a blur of icy politeness and hasty departures. As the last guests make their excuses, Mrs. Parker catches my arm in a grip like steel. "You will never be one of us," she hisses, her perfect social mask finally cracking. "My son may be momentarily infatuated with your peculiar ways, but he will come to his senses. The Parker family has standards to maintain." I meet her gaze steadily, though my heart is breaking for her and for her son. She's choosing to put all this between them, and I wonder at what a life she leads that love is of little value. "Your son is capable of making his own choices, madam." "Is he?" Her smile is cruel. "We shall see."
The carriage ride home is a lonely affair, filled with doubts that creep in like evening fog. James's impassioned defense should have left me elated, but instead, I find myself wondering about the cost. How long can love survive in the face of such determined opposition? How many doors will close to him if he continues to champion me? Will there come a day when resentment outweighs affection? The apothecary shop is dark when I arrive home, but I can see lamplight in the upstairs window where Father waits up for me. Soon, I will have to tell him how thoroughly I failed to win over James's family. Soon, I will have to face the reality that perhaps some gaps cannot be bridged by love alone. But for now, I pause in the street, looking up at the stars that shine the same over mansions and shops alike. I touch Mother's pearl earrings once more and whisper a prayer, not for acceptance from those who will never give it, but for the strength to be true to myself for whatever comes next. Tomorrow will bring what it brings, but tonight, I hold fast to the knowledge that I face society's dragons without flinching and without compromising my principles. Whether that victory will cost me James's love remains to be seen. Chapter 12. The autumn sunlight seems dimmer somehow in the days following the Parker dinner party, as if the world itself has lost some of its luster. I go through the motions of my daily routine, grinding herbs, preparing tinctures, documenting my research, and attending lectures, but my usual enthusiasm feels hollow, like an echo in an empty room. James hasn't called on me since that night. No notes, no surprise visits, no wildflowers left on the shop's doorstep. The silence speaks volumes about his choice, so my traitorous heart refuses to accept what my mind already knows. His passionate defense at dinner proved to be more performance than promise, a last gallant gesture before surrendering to familial expectations. Father watches me with worried eyes as I move mechanically through our workday, but he knows better than to press. Instead, he quietly takes on more of the customer-facing duties, allowing me to retreat to the sanctuary of our workshop. That Harborview is not large enough to avoid the ghostly remnants of what happened, though. Each morning, I take a different route to avoid passing the fountain where we first discussed my university presentation. The tea shop where we shared biscuits is now forbidden territory. Even the park bench where he first declared his love seems to mock me as I hurry past, eyes fixed straight ahead. The library proves particularly challenging. Professor Hamilton's research team meets there twice weekly, and I cannot avoid it without compromising my professional obligations. The first time I force myself to climb those familiar steps, my heart threatens to burst from my chest at the sight of a dark-haired man bent over a book. But it's only young Mr. Collins, the banker's son, absorbed in his reading. Miss Whitman, Professor Hamilton greets me warmly, spreading out his research notes on our usual table. "I've been reviewing your mint extraction protocols. Fascinating work. I wonder if we might apply similar methodology to other medicinal plants." I grasp at the intellectual challenge like a drowning woman clutching a lifeline. "Yes, I believe we can." For blessed hours, I lose myself in scientific discussion, careful documentation, and theoretical frameworks. Here at least I know my worth. Here my contributions are valued. The other students in the group understand how strict the invitations are and have made room for me without prejudice. The professor's enthusiasm for my methods and his respectful consideration of my ideas serve as a balm to my wounded spirit. Even in the midst of our academic discourse, memories intrude. This was where James and I first discovered our shared passion for chemical theory. By that very shelf, he once spent 20 minutes expounding on the revolutionary potential of electricity, his eyes alight with the same fire that burned in my own heart. That you walking home in the gathering dusk, I can't help but imagine James across town in his family's mansion. Is he sitting in that opulent dining room now, making polite conversation with the boring but beautiful Miss Ashworth? Has he already begun to remake himself into the son his parents always wanted, focused on business ledgers instead of scientific journals, courting a proper society wife who would never dream of pursuing a career? Or does he pace his room in elegant torment, cursing his own weakness and bowing to his mother's imperious demands? I can picture him there, running frustrated hands through his dark hair, perhaps picking up his pen a dozen times to write to me before setting it aside again. Mrs. Parker no doubt maintains her usual schedule of social calls and charity meetings, secure in her victory over the uppity apothecary's daughter, who dared to dream above her station. Perhaps she's already planning another dinner party, this time with more suitable young ladies for her son to admire. My own mother would have known what to say in this situation. She always had a way of finding hope in the darkest moments. The truth of a person's heart cannot be denied forever, she used to say. But what if the truth of James's heart is simply that he loves his family's approval more than he loves me? I throw myself into my research with renewed determination, working late into the night until Father literally pries the mortar from my hands and sends me to bed. Sleep proves elusive, but at least in my laboratory, I can pretend that the tears blurring my vision are from the pungent herbs rather than heartbreak. A week passes in this fashion. The leaves begin to fall. I developed a new method for concentrating fever extract that shows remarkable promise. Professor Hamilton speaks of publishing our findings in a medical journal. Life, as it tends to do, goes on. Then, one morning, as I'm measuring out dried chamomile for Mrs. Henderson's sleeping tea, the bell above the shop door chimes. I don't look up immediately, focused on achieving the perfect proportion of flowers to stems. Did you hear? Mrs. Peterson's voice carries clearly from the front of the shop where Father is assisting her. The most extraordinary scene at the Parker mansion yesterday. My cousin's maid heard it from their cook, who saw the whole thing through the kitchen window. My hands freeze on the scale weights, though I pretend to be absorbed in my task. Young Mr. Parker apparently stormed into his mother's morning room, completely without ceremony, mind you, and informed her that he would not be pursuing a match with Miss Ashworth or any other society lady she might parade before him. The chamomile slips from my suddenly nerveless fingers, scattering across the workbench. There was quite the row from what I hear, Mrs. Peterson continues with obvious relish. Mrs. Parker threatened to cut him off without a penny, but he merely laughed and said he'd rather earn his own way than live as a puppet to her prejudices. Can you imagine? Gossip is a dangerous thing, Mrs. Peterson, my father says mildly, though I can hear the smile in his voice. Best not to put too much stock in servants' tales. Oh, but there's more. He told her, and I have this directly from their parlor maid who was arranging flowers at the time, he told her that he would rather live in a humble cottage with a woman of intelligence and principle than in a mansion with a society puppet who barely knows her own mind. Then he walked out. Jess packed a valise and left. The entire household is in an uproar. I hardly dare breathe, my heart hammering against my ribs. It can't be true. It's just idle gossip, the kind that spreads through harbor towns like wildfire. And yet, the shop bell chimes again, and this time, I do look up. James stands in the doorway, his normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, as if he's been running his hands through his hair repeatedly. His eyes find mine immediately, bright with a familiar intensity that makes my knees weak. Mrs. Peterson lets out a small squeak of surprise, no doubt mentally composing the next piece of gossip she'll spread through town. My father, bless him, smoothly guides her toward the door. "Let me walk you out, madame. We're closing for the time being." The door closes behind them, leaving James and me alone in the suddenly too small shop. Neither of us speaks for a long moment, the air between us charged with unspoken words. "Sarah," he finally breaks the silence, taking a step toward me. "I've been an absolute fool. Have you?" I manage to ask, proud of how steady my voice sounds despite my racing heart. "Yes." He moves closer, navigating around the counter that separates us. "I've spent the past week trying to be the son my parents wanted, and do you know what I discovered?" I shake my head mutely. I discovered that I don't like that version of myself very much. His laugh is self-deprecating. He's rather dull, actually. All he talks about is shipping manifests and social obligations. He has no passion, no curiosity, no real understanding of what matters in life. "And what does matter?" I whisper, hardly daring to hope. James reaches for my hand, his fingers closing warm and sure around mine. "You matter." I told my mother that I'm done living by her narrow definitions of success and propriety. I told her that I love you, and if she can't accept that, then she'll have to learn to live without me in her life. "James," I begin, but he's not finished. "I left, and I haven't been back. I intend to try again with them. I need to find out where my father stands. But I want you with me. I don't want to do this alone ever again. Will you come?" He holds out his hand, silently asking me to take it and join him in his quest. I don't want to do this.
His parents pick me apart in front of 35 of their closest friends, and they'll surely do it again the moment they see me. How can I say no? He's been there for me at every turn without me having to ask. He hopped on a boat to congratulate me on my application. He appeared the morning of my presentation and carried my charts, and there are countless times in between when he has been my strength and support. Of course, I slipped my hand in his. I would walk through the fires of Hades for this man. Chapter 13. The Parker mansion looms even more imposing in the harsh winter light, its Georgian symmetry a monument to old money and older prejudices. The white marble steps, though meticulously maintained, feel treacherous beneath my boots as James and I ascend them together. Winter roses, forced to bloom out of season in expensive greenhouses, frame the massive oak door with their unnatural perfection. I hadn't planned to be here for this confrontation. Now, as the butler leads us through the soaring entry hall with its crystal chandelier and gilt-framed ancestors, I wonder if my presence will make things worse or better. The house itself seems designed to intimidate, to remind visitors of their place in the social hierarchy. The Persian carpets probably cost more than a year's worth of our apothecary's earnings. Delicate Chinese vases perch on marble-topped tables, their mere presence a statement of wealth and worldliness. Even the air feels expensive, perfumed with hothouse flowers and furniture polish. We're shown into Mr. Parker's study, a room that manages to be both opulent and austere. Dark wooden paneling climbs to a coffered ceiling, while floor-to-ceiling bookshelves hold leather-bound volumes that look more decorative than read. A massive mahogany desk dominates the space, behind which Mr. Parker stands like a general preparing for battle. Mrs. Parker sits regally in a wingback chair nearby, her purple silk dress a splash of calculated elegance against the leather upholstery. James, Mr. Parker's voice fills the room, deliberately excluding me from his greeting. Mother, mother, James acknowledges them both, his hand finding mine in a gesture that doesn't go unnoticed. You wish to speak with me. In private, Mrs. Parker adds pointedly, her eyes skating over me as if I'm a particularly distasteful piece of furniture. I have chosen Sarah, James replies firmly. Mr. Parker's face darkens as he rounds the desk, his footsteps muffled by the thick oriental carpet. Very well. Perhaps it's fitting she witnessed this. He pauses for effect, straightening his already impeccable waistcoat. The situation has become untenable, James. Your dalliance with this apothecary's daughter has set all of Boston society talking. The Ashworths are mortified, and the Blackwells are scandalized. Our business associates are beginning to question our family's judgment. I wasn't aware that my personal life required society's approval, James responds coolly. Everything requires society's approval. Mr. Parker's fist crashes down on a delicate rosewood side table, making the crystal decanters jump. We are not common shopkeepers who can do as we please without consequence. We are Parkers. We have a legacy to uphold, connections to maintain, a reputation to protect. The gilt-edged mirror above the fireplace reflects our little tableau, James and I standing together, his parents facing us from opposite sides like opposing generals. Through the tall windows, weak winter sunlight struggles to penetrate the heavy velvet drapes, casting the room in dramatic shadows. And what of my legacy, father? James asked quietly. Not the Parker name or fortune, but my own contribution to the world? There is more to me than being an accountant. Playing at science like a schoolboy. His father cuts him off with a dismissive wave. It's time to put aside these childish pursuits and take your proper place in the family business. There's nothing childish about James's work, I interject, unable to remain silent. He has the capability and the mind that could invent the next light bulb or surgical procedure to save lives. You. Mrs. Parker rises from her chair in a rustle of expensive silk. You filled his head with these ridiculous notions. Turned him against his family, his duty, his proper place in society. Her perfectly arranged coiffure trembles with indignation. Well, it ends now. Mr. Parker draws himself up to his full height, his shadow falling across us both. James, I'm giving you one chance, just one, to end this foolishness. Renounce this connection, and we'll put this unfortunate episode behind us. Refuse, and you'll be cut off without a penny. No inheritance, no connections, no support of any kind. I feel James trembling beside me, and my heart seizes. I knew this moment would come, but facing it in this intimidating room, surrounded by generations of Parker wealth and influence, makes it feel so much more real. James straightens, his grip on my hand tightening. When he speaks, his voice is perfectly steady. If exchanging my birthright is the cost for being with the woman I love, so be it. though I believe I'm getting the better end of the deal. The silence that follows is absolute. Even the crackling fire in the massive marble fireplace seems to hold its breath. "You can't be serious," Mrs. Parker finally whispers, sinking back into her chair as if her legs won't support her. "James, darling, think about what you're saying. Think about your future." "I am thinking about my future, Mother. A future where I can pursue my passion for science, where I can make a real difference in the world. A future with a woman who challenges me intellectually and supports me unconditionally." "Supports you?" Mr. Parker's laugh is harsh in the book-lined room. "She's bewitched you with her feminine wiles and progressive ideas, led you astray from everything we've built for you." "The only thing leading me astray was trying to be someone I'm not," James replies. "I'm a scientist at heart, Father. I always have been. Sarah didn't change that. She simply gave me the courage to embrace it." Mrs. Parker rises again, crossing to a Chippendale table where family photographs and silver frames display generations of Parker's prosperity. "You would throw away everything for her? This woman who presumes to be a scholar?" "I'm not playing at anything," I say quietly but firmly. "My research is already gaining recognition in medical circles. Professor Hamilton's team, research. She spits the word like a curse. Is that what you think you can offer my son? Academic accolades? And what of children? Of a warm meal? Do you think after living with us he could be content with crumbs?" "The Parker name comes with a price I'm no longer willing to pay," James interjects. "I've made my choice." Mr. Parker's face turns an alarming shade of purple. "Then you are no longer my son." He strides to the door, yanking it open with enough force to rattle the family crest mounted above it. "Get out, both of you, and don't expect any further support from this family." "Richard," Mrs. Parker protests weakly. Her husband silences her with a look. "He's made his choice, Margaret. Let him live with the consequences." James leads me from the study through the grand hall with its watching portraits, past the butler who can't quite hide his curiosity. The winter roses mock us as we descend the marble steps, but James doesn't falter. Only when we reach the street does he pull me into his arms, holding me so tightly I can feel his heart hammering against my cheek. "I'm so sorry you had to witness that," he whispers into my hair. "I'm sorry you had to make that choice," I reply, fighting back tears. He pulls back just enough to meet my eyes, his own bright with emotion. It wasn't really a choice at all. Looking up at him, framed against the winter sky with his family mansion looming behind him, I feel my certainty solidify. This man, this brilliant, courageous man who just gave up everything for love and scientific truth, is worth any price. We will more than persevere, I promise him. We'll prove them wrong about everything. Already my research findings are gaining attention beyond Harborview. Professor Hamilton speaks of publishing our work in London's most prestigious medical journal. The university board is discussing creating a special position for me, one that would allow me to continue my studies while conducting research. As we walk away from the Parker mansion, I think about all the whispers and sidelong glances we've weathered from Harborview society matrons. But for every disapproving dowager, there's a young girl who stops me to ask about university, who is curious about life outside of the parlor. James's arm is warm around my shoulders as we make our way through the winter streets. Behind us, his family's house stands cold and proud, clinging to its outdated certainties. Ahead lies a future we'll build together, brick by brick, discovery by discovery. Let them talk. Let them judge. We have work to do, my brilliant man and I, and the world will have to listen. Chapter 14. The winter sunlight streams through the tall windows of Professor Hamilton's laboratory, catching the glass beakers and creating tiny rainbows across my workbench. I'm carefully measuring precise amounts of mint extract, documenting each variation in my ever-present notebook, when whispers and movement near the door catch my attention. Those past weeks have settled into a new pattern, one of both triumph and tension. James visits the apothecary shop daily, his eyes bright with determination as he shares his latest confrontations with Boston society. Sometimes he arrives flushed with victory after standing his ground against another of his father's business associates. Other times, he's subdued after yet another cutting letter from his mother. But always he greets me with that same look of absolute certainty. "Worth it," he whispers each time, pressing his lips to my temple or catching my hand in his. "You're worth everything." He's applied for several positions at the university and hopes to hear of one soon. I admit that part of my heart aches watching this rift grow between James and his family. I know what it is to lose a parent, though my mother's death was very different from this chosen estrangement. Still, there are moments when I catch a shadow crossing his face at some small reminder of home, and I wonder if love can truly be enough to fill such a void. But his passion for science burns brighter with each passing day, as if finally being allowed to breathe. You've given me permission to be myself, he told me just yesterday, perched on a stool in the workshop while I prepared Mrs. Henderson's arthritis tonic. How can I possibly regret choosing authenticity over pretense? Now, as I carefully note the ratio of alcohol to water in my latest extraction attempt, I hear the laboratory door open. Professor Hamilton is delivering his usual afternoon lecture on chemical properties to the small group of researchers, but his words trail off mid-sentence. I look up, and my heart stops. James stands in the doorway, slightly out of breath, as if he's run the whole way here. His dark hair is tousled by the winter wind, his cheeks flushed with cold and something else, something that makes my pulse quicken. Our eyes lock across the room, and the rest of the world seems to fade away. Before I can process what's happening, he's striding toward me with purposeful steps. My colleagues scatter out of his path, and I barely have time to set down my glass-stirring rod before he reaches me. In one fluid motion, he sweeps me into his arms, lifting me clear off my feet in an embrace that steals my breath. James, I gasp, torn between embarrassment at this public display and sheer delight at his unexpected presence. What are you? But he's already setting me gently back on my feet, though he keeps one arm around my waist. His other hand comes up to cup my cheek, and the look in his eyes makes me forget about our audience entirely. Sarah Whitman, he says, his voice carrying clearly through the suddenly silent laboratory. I've been trying to find the perfect moment, the perfect words, to tell you exactly what you mean to me, but I've realized that there will never be perfect words to express something so profound. My heart begins to race as he slowly sinks to one knee before me, still holding my gaze with an intensity that makes me tremble. You are the most brilliant, passionate woman I've ever known, he continues, his voice thick with emotion. You challenge me, support me, and love me exactly as I am. You make me want to be better, as a scientist, as a man, as a human being. Every day with you is an adventure. Tears begin to blur my vision as I realize what's happening. I know we face obstacles, James continues, reaching into his waistcoat pocket. I want you, my love. I want our debates over breakfast and our laboratory experiments lasting late into the night. I want a lifetime of learning and growing together. He produces a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a ring unlike any I've seen before. Instead of a traditional diamond, it features an intricate design of intertwined silver wirework, cradling a piece of carefully carved rose quartz. I designed it myself, he explains softly. Rose quartz is known for its healing properties, just like my brilliant botanist. A tear escapes down my cheek as he takes my hand in his. Sarah, will you marry me? Will you join your life with mine? The entire laboratory holds its breath. Professor Hamilton has abandoned all pretense of lecturing, watching us with undisguised delight. For such a serious man, he seems to have become an incurable romantic. My fellow researchers cluster together, hands clasped in anticipation. But I see only James, my beautiful, brave James, who has defied his family and society to choose love and truth. James, who understands that my work is not a hobby to be set aside, but an essential part of who I am. James, who looks at me now with such hope and certainty that my heart feels too full to contain it all. Yes, I whisper, then louder, yes, 1,000 times yes. He surges to his feet, gathering me close as the laboratory erupts in cheers and applause. I barely register the noise because James is kissing me and the world dissolves into stardust and wonder. His lips are warm and sure against mine, one hand tangling in my hair while the other pulls me flush against him. I wind my arms around his neck, returning his kiss with equal fervor. This is not the chaste peck of proper courtship. This is a kiss of passion and promise, of chemistry and combustion, of two hearts burning hot enough to forge something entirely new. Time stops. The laws of physics seem to bend. Gravity itself appears to shift until I'm not sure if I'm falling or flying. All I know is James, the taste of him, the feel of him, the way his heart thunders against mine as if trying to synchronize our very heartbeats. When we finally break apart, breathing heavily, the laboratory's applause has transformed into whoops and cheers. Professor Hamilton clears his throat loudly, though his eyes twinkle with amusement. Perhaps we should take a short recess, he suggests diplomatically, to celebrate this auspicious occasion. James rests his forehead against mine, seemingly unconcerned with our audience. I love you, he whispers. My brilliant, beautiful woman. I love you too, I reply, my voice wavering with joy. He slides the ring onto my finger, and I marvel at how perfectly it fits both physically and symbolically. This is no ordinary engagement ring for no ordinary couple. Like us, it represents the beautiful fusion of science and romance, of intellectual partnership and emotional connection. Our colleagues crowd around us, offering congratulations, but James keeps one arm firmly around my waist as if afraid I might disappear. Professor Hamilton produces a bottle of champagne from somewhere, for medicinal purposes only, of course, and impromptu toasts are made to our happiness. To the union of brilliant minds, calls out Mr. Roberts, raising his glass. To love conquering all, adds Mr. Thompson. James turns to face me fully, his eyes shining with joy and mischief. To us, he says softly, and to all the discoveries we'll make together. The afternoon sun catches the rose quartz in my ring. Isn't this what science is about at its core? Taking bold leaps into the unknown, following your heart as well as your mind, and being willing to defy convention in pursuit of truth? James and I are embarking on the greatest experiment of all, proving that love and learning, passion and precision, heart and mind can not only coexist, but flourish together. As he pulls me close for another kiss, softer but no less sweet than the first, I know with absolute certainty that this is where I belong. In this laboratory, in these arms, in this life, we're choosing to build together. Let society whisper. Let his family rage. We have each other, and we have a love as real and provable as any scientific law. Everything else is just background noise in the grand experiment of life.
Chapter 15. The gardens of Meadowbrook House ramble in cheerful defiance of convention, much like their mistress. Where other estates boast rigid boxwood hedges and perfect rose gardens, James's Aunt Louisa lets nature have its way. Wildflowers bloom wherever they please. Herbs mingle freely with flowering shrubs and the occasional chicken struts, importantly across the gravel paths. It's perfect, I breathed, taking in the controlled chaos that somehow makes sense. Rather like love, I think, messy and unexpected, yet absolutely right. James squeezes my hand, clearly pleased by my reaction. I knew you'd understand Aunt Lou's approach. She's always believed that the most interesting discoveries happen when you let things grow naturally. As if summoned by our discussion, Louisa Parker appears around a bend in the path, her silver hair escaping its pins and her practical gardening dress spotted with dirt. She bears little resemblance to her rigid sister-in-law, James's mother, save for the same fine bone structure that James inherited. There you are, my dears, she calls out cheerfully. I've just picked fresh mint for the lemonade. Come tell me everything about your engagement while it's steeping. We follow her into the rambling stone house, which seems to have grown organically over generations, like one of her beloved plants. The kitchen is warm and welcoming, filled with copper pots and bundles of drying herbs that remind me of our apothecary shop. Now then, Aunt Louisa says as she pours lemonade into glasses that don't quite match, show me this unconventional ring my nephew designed. Margaret nearly had apoplexy when she heard about it, which means it must be absolutely perfect. I extend my hand, and the rose quartz catches the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Aunt Louisa examines it with obvious approval. Crystalline structures and healing properties combined in one symbol. Oh, well done, James. You've captured your essence as a couple perfectly. She bustles to the oven, producing a tray of freshly baked scones. Now, tell me about your plans. And don't worry about propriety or practicality. This is a place for dreams. James pulls me closer on the comfortable window seat we're sharing, his eyes alight with enthusiasm. We've been discussing establishing a research center here in Harborview, he begins. Combining Sarah's expertise in botanical medicine with my chemistry background and Professor Hamilton's support, I add eagerly. He believes there's real potential in standardizing traditional remedies using modern scientific methods. Better yet, James continues, we could offer training programs for other women interested in medicine and science. Sarah's already inspired so many young girls in town. Aunt Louisa beams at us over her teacup. Do you think it's possible? I ask, voicing the doubt that sometimes creeps in despite my happiness. Society is so resistant to change. My dear girl, Aunt Louisa sets down her cup firmly. Society is like my garden. It looks rigid and unchanging on the surface, but underneath, new ideas are always taking root. You just have to give them space to grow. James presses a kiss to grow. James presses a kiss to my temple. And we'll nurture those ideas together. Every breakthrough, every student we teach, every life we improve, they're all seeds of change. I love watching you two together, Aunt Louisa says softly. Speaking of blooming, James turns to me with that intense look that still makes my heart flutter. I love how you come alive when you talk about your research. Your eyes spark with the same fire they held the day we met, debating mint properties at that medical conference. I feel my cheeks warm at his praise. And I love how you never ask me to be less than I am. You see my passion for science as a gift rather than a flaw. Because it is a gift, he insists. Your brilliant mind, your healing hands, your tremendous heart, they're all part of what makes you uniquely, perfectly Sarah. And I fall more in love with each facet of you every day. Such romance. Aunt Louisa pretends to fan herself. Aunt Louisa pretends to fan herself. Now, tell me more about this research center. Have you thought about what part of town you'll locate? As James outlines our preliminary plans, I find myself studying his animated face. He's so different here, away from the stuffiness of his parents' disapproval. Here, in this haven of acceptance, he's purely himself, brilliant, passionate, and utterly uninhibited in his dreams. I can imagine him as a child with his aunt, soaking up her wisdom, love, and zest for life. What are you thinking about? He asks, catching my contemplative look. How much I love you, I reply simply. How grateful I am that you chose to be true to yourself, even when it cost you so much. His expression softens as he takes my hand, thumb brushing over my unconventional ring. You make it sound like a sacrifice when really it was salvation. Every day, I wake up knowing I'm living authentically, pursuing real science instead of just profits, loving without reservation or regret. How could I not be grateful for that? Aunt Louise's eyes twinkle. Speaking of gratitude, would you like to see my latest experiments? I've been crossing different lavender varieties, trying to enhance their medicinal properties. We spend the remainder of the afternoon exploring her gardens, which prove to be far more organized than they initially appeared. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the wild-seeming beds, James pulls me into a secluded arbor covered in climbing roses. Thank you, he murmurs against my hair. For what? For believing in our dreams, for being brave enough to love me despite all the complications, for making me brave enough to be myself. I reach up to trace his beloved face, memorizing again the strong line of his jaw, the intelligence in his eyes, and the warmth of his smile. I love every version of you, I tell him. The serious scientist and the dreaming revolutionary, the devoted nephew and the defiant son, the man who proposed to me in a laboratory because he knows that's where my heart lives alongside his. When he kisses me, it's sweet with promise and possibility. Here in Aunt Louise's garden, surrounded by healing herbs and wild roses, our dreams feel not just possible but inevitable. We will build our research center. We will teach and learn and discover. We will forge a path for others to follow. Later, as we prepare to leave, Aunt Louisa presses a key into my hand. Consider Meadowbrook your sanctuary, she says firmly. Come here whenever you need space to breathe and dream. The garden will welcome you, and so will I. Driving back to Harborview in James's modest new carriage, bought with his modest salary rather than family money, we're quiet but content. The setting sun paints the sky in shades of possibility, and the future stretches before us like an unexplored country waiting to be mapped. Chapter 15. The morning light filters through the church's stained glass windows, painting rainbow patterns across my white silk gown. I stand in the small antechamber, fingers nervously smoothing non-existent wrinkles from the fabric. Father's gentle knock precedes his entrance, and the pride in his eyes brings tears to my own dot. You look just like your mother, he says softly, touching the sprig of rosemary pinned to my bouquet, her favorite herb, known for remembrance. The flowers are all medicinal plants, carefully chosen for their healing properties and symbolic meanings. Lavender for devotion, chamomile for patience, thyme for courage. Their fragrance is rich and meaningful and just perfect for this moment. They've been in my life and inspired me to be who I am, the woman James fell in love with, and carrying them forth is a testament to my desire to make him as much a part of my life as these herbs have been. Through the partially open door, I catch glimpses of James at the altar, handsome in his new morning coat as he fidgets with his cravat. Professor Hamilton, standing beside him as best man, says something that makes him laugh, though the sound holds a nervous edge. I know he's thinking of the empty pews where his family should be sitting, of the invitation his parents returned unopened. The small church is filled with our chosen family, my fellow students, James's colleagues from the university, Professor Hamilton's research team, and even some of our regular customers from the apothecary shop. Aunt Louisa sits in the front row, resplendent in a gown of deep purple silk, deliberately occupying the space traditionally reserved for the groom's mother. It's time, Father whispers, offering his arm. Before we can move toward the door, the heavy oak panels at the back of the church creak open. A collective gasp ripples through the congregation as two familiar figures step into the shaft of morning light. A. James's parents stand hesitating in the doorway, looking somehow both imperious and uncertain. Mrs. Parker clutches a worn leather Bible to her chest like a shield, while Mr. Parker's usual commanding presence seems muted by the gravity of the moment. I feel rather than see James stiffen at the altar, his shoulders squaring as if preparing for battle. He walks down the aisle, and instead of going to them, he comes to me. Quickly, I step out of the antechamber and move to his side, placing a gentle hand on his arm. His muscles are rigid beneath the fine wool of his coat. James, I murmur, wait. Mr. Parker clears his throat, the sound echoing in the hushed church. Son, he begins, his voice rougher than I've ever heard it. If you'll permit us, that is, no child of mine should be married without his family present. James's jaw clenches. You made your position quite clear months ago, Father. Your mother and I, we've watched you these past months. Watched you build a life on your own terms, pursue your scientific passions, and grow into a man of principle and determination. The words seem to cost Mr. Parker physical pain, but he forces them out. And Mrs. Parker steps forward, her silk skirts rustling against the wooden floor. We've also read the papers, she adds softly. Your research publications, the articles about the healing center you're establishing. Her fingers tighten on the Bible. You've accomplished so much without any help from us. We didn't need your help, James says, but some of the tension has left his voice. No, Mr. Parker acknowledges. You didn't. I hold my breath as Mrs. Parker finally meets my gaze. Her face is still composed, still beautiful in its aristocratic way, but something has shifted behind her eyes. My son loves you, she says simply. Not just with his heart, but with his mind. You make him better than he was. I was too blind to see it before. She steps forward, holding out the Bible. This has been in the Parker family for generations. Every marriage, every birth, every significant moment is recorded within its pages. Her voice wavers slightly. I would be honored if you would use it in your ceremony today. James's hand finds mine, squeezing tightly. I feel the tremor that runs through him, the war between hope and hurt, between love and lingering anger. Mother, he says finally. Father. Are you truly prepared to accept the life we've chosen? Our work, our goals, everything. Mr. Parker straightens, some of his old authority returning. Son, I built my fortune by recognizing opportunity when I see it. Your mother and I have discussed this at length. Your research center, it's revolutionary. Different from what we imagined for you, yes, but potentially more significant than anything we could have planned. And you? James asks his mother softly. Can you accept Sarah as she is? Mrs. Parker's eyes filled with unexpected tears. I can try, she whispers. Will that be enough to start? I feel the last of the tension leave James's body. It's a beginning, he says. The minister, who has been watching this exchange with evident emotion, clears his throat. Shall we proceed with the ceremony? James turns to me, his eyes asking a silent question. In answer, I step forward to accept the family Bible from Mrs. Parker. Our fingers brush as she hands it over, and I see something like approval flash across her face. Welcome to the family, she murmurs before taking her place in the front pew beside her husband. The ceremony itself passes in a blur of joy and promise. We speak the traditional vows but add our own pledges as well, to support each other's dreams, to never let society's expectations dim our passion for knowledge, and to face every challenge as equal partners in life and science. When James slides the ring onto my finger, my beloved rose quartz still in place on my right hand, his touch lingers. My brilliant wife, he whispers. My heart's true north. My fearless chemist, I reply, voice thick with emotion. My partner in all things. The kiss that seals our vows tastes of joy and possibility, of dreams, fulfilled and adventures yet to come. The congregation erupts in applause, led by Aunt Louisa's enthusiastic cheering. At the reception, held in Aunt Louisa's wild gardens, I watch James dance with his mother. Their movements are still slightly awkward, but genuine effort shows in every step. Mr. Parker engages my father in an animated discussion about the medicinal properties of native plants and the possibility of shipping plants from different climates, while Professor Hamilton regales Aunt Louisa with tales of our latest research breakthroughs. Happy? James asks, appearing at my side. Beyond measure, I reply, evidenced by the look on your face and the beauty that shines around you. Speaking of evidence, I say, touching his cheek gently, I love you more with each passing day. That's an empirically proven fact. But can you replicate your results? His eyes sparkle with mischief. I intend to spend a lifetime gathering data, I assure him. As the evening light fades to purple dusk, paper lanterns illuminate the garden's winding paths. James leads me in a quiet dance beneath the stars, our movements guided by the soft music drifting from the house. Chapter 17. 40 years later, golden autumn light streams through the tall windows of the Natural Sciences Building, catching the brass nameplates that line the corridor. The Whitman Parker Center for Botanical Research and Women's Medical Education. 40 years of history shine in that carefully polished brass, for decades of dreams made real through determination and love. Today, the lecture hall buzzes with celebration. Former students, now distinguished researchers in their own right, mingle with current faculty. Colleagues from around the world have traveled to mark this occasion, my 60th birthday and the center's 40th anniversary falling auspiciously on the same day. I pause in the doorway, taking in the scene. The room has changed since I first stood here defending my research. The wooden benches have been replaced with comfortable seating, and the old gas lamps upgraded to modern electric fixtures. But the spirit of inquiry remains unchanged, perhaps even strengthened by the generations of women who have studied here. James appears at my side, as attuned to my presence now as he was that first day at the medical conference. His dark hair has silvered handsomely, and laugh lines crinkle the corners of his eyes, but his gaze still holds that same mixture of intellectual curiosity and devoted love that captured my heart so long ago. Ready, my brilliant botanist? He asks softly, offering his arm. I smooth a hand over my simple dress, touching the rose quartz brooch that matches my original engagement ring. My once vibrant red curls have faded to a soft white, though James swears they still catch fire in certain lights.
Time has left its marks on my face, too. Laugh lines, worry lines of concentration from countless hours bent over microscopes and research journals. But they're honest lines, earned through a life lived fully and freely. As I'll ever be, I reply, accepting his support. The room falls quiet as we make our way to the podium.
So many familiar faces look back at me. Dr. Elizabeth Sutton, one of our first female graduates, is now head of research at London's premier medical college. Young Maria Hamilton, Professor Hamilton's granddaughter, carries on her grandfather's legacy of championing women in science. Even old Mrs. Peterson is here, now well into her 90s but still sharp as ever, having long ago transformed from town gossip to one of our staunchest supporters. Friends, colleagues, fellow seekers of truth. I begin, my voice carrying clearly through the hall. So many of you knew me first as an upstart from Harborview, the apothecary's daughter, who dared to dream. Many doubted the wisdom of my husband's choice to support such unconventional ambitions. Beside me, James's smile widens. His hand finds mine, our fingers intertwining with the easy familiarity of 40 years of practice. I gesture to the walls, where honorary degrees and scientific accolades hang alongside pressed botanical specimens. Our work in standardizing natural remedies has revolutionized medical treatment worldwide. Our research into traditional healing practices has validated centuries of wisdom previously dismissed as mere folklore. The accomplishments still humble me. Papers published in every major medical journal, invitations to lecture at Europe's most prestigious universities, and our methodologies adopted as standard practice in hospitals across continents. But more meaningful are the lives touched, the suffering eased, and the doors open for others to follow their dreams. This year, our center will graduate more female doctors than male. Our research methods are taught in universities worldwide. I pause, overwhelmed for a moment by how far we've come. When I was young, women couldn't vote, couldn't own property in their own names, couldn't dream of attending most universities. Now, my female students take these rights for granted, focusing instead on pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge ever further. This brilliant man beside me never asked me to be less than I was. Instead, he helped me become more than I ever dreamed possible. Together, we've proven that the greatest scientific discoveries come not from competition but from cooperation. We will continue with that thought and the goal of uniting brilliant minds for the future. The applause is overwhelming. Later, as we greet well-wishers, I'm struck by how many lives we've touched. Did you ever imagine this? James asks quietly as we take a moment's respite near the windows. That first day at the medical conference, did you dare dream so far? I lean into his familiar embrace, watching the autumn leaves dance on the breeze outside. I dreamed of being taken seriously as a scientist, I admit. I dreamed of validating the healing wisdom my father taught me. But this, I gesture to the room full of colleagues and students, to the center we built together, to the life we've shared. This exceeded even my wildest imaginings. When the celebration winds down, James and I walk hand in hand through the gardens we planted decades ago. The herbs have grown wild and strong, much like the dreams we nurtured here. Students still gather medicinal plants under these trees, just as I once did in my father's garden. Let history record that here, in this garden of healing and learning, love and ambition bloom together, creating something entirely new and wonderful. Let future generations know that progress comes not from following established paths, but from daring to forge new ones. And let our story stand as proof that the greatest discovery of all is finding someone who loves both your heart and your mind, who sees your dreams not as threats but as shared adventures, which helps you become exactly who you were always meant to be. That is the experiment that never ends, the hypothesis that proves true again and again. Love, like science, knows no bounds when given room to grow.
Thank you for listening to Waves of Devotion, Harborview Historical Romances, Book 7.
Written by Lucille McConnell. We hope you have enjoyed this audio recording. If so, please like and subscribe to the channel. Have a wonderful day, and remember that you are loved and important.
Okay, what did you think? I hope you love this story as much as I loved writing it. Drop me a comment below. Let me know what you think about the story. If you want more of these books, I've kind of taken a hiatus of writing historical fiction because I've been doing so many other projects. I've got my hockey romance series coming out. I had the Hot in the Kitchen series that came out at the beginning of this year. I'm working on an epic Western romance with a co-author friend of mine named Erica Penrod, which is an authentic Western experience. We both have kids who rodeo, we have horses, we live this life. So this is something where we just wanted to get to our roots and really just write about what we know about. So anyway, all these things are going on, but if you guys want more Harborview, you gotta let me know. So leave a comment. Thank you so much for being here. I surely appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next audiobook.